You've probably heard it 1,000 times. Wake up early. Stay consistent. Push through the pain. Be disciplined. But here's a hard truth you won't hear from traditional self-help coaches, productivity influencers, or hustle evangelists. Discipline is outdated, not just ineffective, not just limited. It's obsolete. Let that land for a second. Because if you're still trying to brute force your life forward using discipline, you're operating on a system designed in the 1800s. For factory workers, discipline is a tool of linear thinking. It assumes reality is predictable, that if you repeat something long enough, you'll eventually break through. It says you must conquer your resistance, crush your excuses, and just keep going. But what if the real block isn't your inconsistency? It's the outdated model you're using to live. Because the truth is, we no longer live in a linear world. We live in a quantum reality, where energy, frequency, and alignment shape results faster than logic, grind, or grit ever could. You've been taught that results come from effort. But in the quantum field, results come from coherence, from alignment, from attuning to the highest version of yourself and allowing life to pull you forward with intelligence and synchronicity. This series is a blueprint for that reality. Across the next 40 chapters, we'll rip the veil off the old model of discipline and expose its hidden costs, the stress it wires into your nervous system, the subtle war it creates within yourself, and the ceiling it places on your potential. Then we're going to build something entirely new, a state we call quantum alignment. It's not about trying harder. It's about tuning deeper. When your thoughts, feelings, actions, and energy all align with who you really are, you stop chasing life and start living it with effortless power. You're going to discover how to stop operating from willpower and start moving from resonance. You'll learn to listen to the inner signal that always knows the path of least resistance and highest reward. And you'll install a new framework, one where your actions aren't forced, your motivation isn't borrowed, and your growth doesn't come at the cost of your peace. This isn't about giving up. It's about waking up. Because discipline, as we've been taught, was never freedom. It was a coping mechanism, a control system, and a substitute for inner clarity. In this series, we return to clarity, to alignment, to truth. So if you're ready to drop the weight of force and unlock the velocity of flow, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's begin. Let's start with the phrase that's become the holy scripture of hustle culture. Just do it. 3 little words. They sound empowering, bold, even inspiring. But under the surface, they reflect a mindset that is fundamentally broken. This chapter isn't here to criticize effort or action. It's here to expose the massive flaw in how we've been taught to generate both. Willpower, by definition, is force. It's the conscious override of resistance. It says, I don't want to, but I will. It assumes success is always on the other side of discomfort, and that discomfort must be conquered at all costs. This thinking turns your life into a battlefield. You against your body, you against your mind, you against your feelings. And every day you wake up preparing for war. But here's the catch, willpower is finite. It's not a switch, it's a battery. And every decision you force, every action you push, every moment you suppress what you feel in order to do what you should, drains that battery. Scientific studies confirm this. Willpower is subject to depletion. It weakens under stress, sleep deprivation, emotional friction, or even the simple act of choosing between 2 options too many times in a row. So the entire model of just do it becomes unsustainable. You can power through. For a while, you can hit your targets. Sometimes, but the cost is high, and over time your internal battery burns out, leaving you exhausted, uninspired, and feeling like a failure for not being able to push through anymore. That's not discipline. That's dysfunction. Let's get even clearer. Willpower operates from separation. It divides you into the version that wants to rest, explore, connect, enjoy, and the version that insists on pushing, producing, achieving, proving. That internal split is where all suffering begins. And here's where it gets even more insidious. Our culture glorifies this suffering. The more you grind, the more you're praised. The more you suppress your feelings, the more disciplined you're considered. The more disconnected you are from yourself, the more people say you're focused. But none of this creates a sustainable life. It creates burnout. It creates emotional numbness. It creates a distorted identity built around performance, not presence. The entire idea of just do it hinges on a lie, that your mind should control your body, your instincts, and your energy, even when every part of you is screaming no. That isn't power. That's inner violence. Now here's the truth that begins to free you. The most powerful actions are not forced. They're felt. True action doesn't need to be dragged out of you. It rises through you, comes with energy, clarity, and inner yesness. The problem is we've been taught to ignore those signals. We don't wait for alignment. We don't trust our timing. We override the body's wisdom with artificial timelines and ego-driven urgency. And in doing so, we shut down the very intelligence that was designed to guide us. If you've ever experienced moments of effortless productivity, hours flying by while you were completely absorbed, energized, and effective, you've already touched the alternative. That wasn't willpower. That was alignment. That was inner coherence. That was your system functioning in harmony, not in opposition. So now the question becomes, why don't we live like that all the time? Why do we keep returning to struggle, force, and effort-based success? Because we've been conditioned to distrust ease. We've been trained to equate difficulty with virtue. And most dangerously, we've been programmed to fear our own internal rhythm, as if doing what feels good means you're weak, lazy, or unmotivated. That conditioning is the root of the willpower myth. Let's be blunt. There are people who build six-figure businesses, transform their health, and create fulfilling lives, not by pushing, but by aligning. Not by staying disciplined, but by listening deeply to their own signal and moving when the time is right. These people are not anomalies. They are simply no longer relying on willpower. They've replaced force with flow. And you can too. This isn't about giving up discipline. It's about replacing it with something far more powerful. Something sustainable. Something joyful. Something natural. Because when you stop forcing yourself to act and start aligning your energy with the action itself, you unlock a level of momentum that willpower could never touch. And once you experience that, the myth shatters forever. Now that you've seen the truth behind the willpower model, next we will break open the roots of discipline itself. Not the surface behaviors, but the historical programming that's been shaping your habits without you even knowing. And the answer to who gave you this model in the first place may shock you. Now that you've seen how willpower functions like a battery, draining you in the name of productivity, it's time to address a deeper question. Where did this entire model of discipline even come from? Who decided that suppressing your emotions, forcing repetitive behavior, and obeying external rules was the highest form of success? To answer that, we don't need a self-help book. We need a history lesson. The discipline model you live inside wasn't created for freedom. It was engineered for control. It has roots not in creativity, purpose, or even effectiveness, but in industrial obedience. Let's go back to the 1800s. Factories were booming. Mass production was king. And what business owners needed wasn't innovative thinkers. They needed bodies that could follow orders. Not question. Not resist. Just comply. Discipline was the perfect tool. Children were trained to sit still for hours in rigid classroom rows, rewarded for compliance, punished for curiosity. Workers were evaluated based on punctuality and repeatability, not innovation or alignment. Society was designed to reward obedience and punish self-direction. And that's the system you inherited. The modern idea of discipline, wake up at the same time, grind through a checklist, suppress distraction, ignore your energy, isn't a product of higher awareness. It's a remnant of industrial-era conditioning. Discipline wasn't designed for your genius. It was designed to mold humans into machines. And you may not be standing on a factory floor today, but that mindset still lives in your daily choices. You feel guilty for sleeping in. You criticize yourself for not doing enough. You feel behind when you rest. That's not awareness. That's programming. We've romanticized the very chains that once kept our ancestors compliant. We wear discipline like a badge of honor, without questioning who benefits from our self-control. And the truth is, when you live from discipline, you are not the beneficiary. You're the product, because when your life is measured by output, consistency, and control, your humanity gets edited out. Your emotions become problems to manage. Your intuition gets silenced. Your desires become liabilities. But here's the deeper cost. Living inside this discipline model slowly erodes your ability to access inner alignment. You're trained to override your internal signals. You don't eat when you're hungry. You eat when it's time. You don't move when you're inspired. You move when your calendar tells you. You don't rest when your energy dips. You push harder, because winners never quit. And in that model, your body becomes a tool, not a guide. Your spirit becomes a slave to the schedule. We're so used to treating consistency as a virtue that we've forgotten to ask the most important question. Consistent with what? Are you being consistent with truth? Or just consistent with programming? And that's where the cage becomes invisible, because the system rewards you for staying inside it. You get applause for your grind. You get respect for your discipline. You get status for your obedience. But underneath, you feel the dull ache of misalignment. A sense that no matter how hard you try, something's missing. Something alive. Something free. The reason you feel that is because your system was never built for that cage. Your nervous system, your creative intelligence, your energetic body, all of it was designed for flow, not force. For truth, not timelines. For alignment, not compliance. And once you begin to sense that, the old world starts to break apart. You begin noticing how often your actions are shaped by inherited rules. You start seeing how your calendar, your goals, even your sense of self-worth, are built on scripts that were handed to you, not chosen by you. That awareness is not rebellion. It's awakening. This chapter isn't about rejecting responsibility. It's about returning it to its rightful source. You don't need to rebel against structure. You need to upgrade the source code beneath it. Because if you're running your life on a system created for machines, you'll never access the organic genius that only alignment can reveal. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people would rather live in the discipline cage because it gives them a sense of control, even if it means sacrificing joy, freedom, and creativity. But control is not the same as power. Power is presence. Power is resonance. Power is when your inner and outer life are in sync, without tension, without resistance, without war. Next, we will turn our attention to the silent war that discipline wages on your biology. Because once you start to understand how the nervous system gets wired through repeated suppression, you'll never look at self-control the same way again. You've seen the industrial roots of discipline. You now know it wasn't built for human flourishing, but for mass obedience. But there's an even more dangerous cost hidden beneath the surface. Let's talk about what's happening inside your body every time you try to power through. Every time you suppress your desire for rest. Every time you override your inner signal. It's not just mental, it's biological. Discipline creates a loop inside your nervous system that most people live in their entire lives, without ever realizing it. Let's break it down. Every time you override a natural signal, fatigue, hunger, emotional discomfort, you trigger your sympathetic nervous system. This is the system responsible for fight or flight. Now, in short bursts, this system is useful. It gives you adrenaline, focus, precision. But when it's activated over and over, day after day, for years, your body begins to treat your entire life like a threat. You live in low-grade emergency mode. Cortisol becomes your baseline. You may look calm, but inside your system is tense, alert, exhausted, bracing. This is the invisible stress loop. It doesn't feel dramatic. It feels normal, because it's been normalized. That constant tightness in your chest, that mental fog around 3 p.m., that strange guilt you feel when you try to relax, is all evidence. Evidence that your system has adapted to chronic override. Discipline demands suppression. Suppression triggers stress. Stress becomes your default. And the worst part? We've been told the stress is growth. Pressure makes diamonds, they say. No, Pressure makes shutdown. It distorts your intuition. It impairs your decision-making. It floods your system with chemicals designed for survival, not creation. And in that survival state, your access to higher intelligence disappears. Try writing a song when you're anxious. Try solving a complex problem when you're bracing for failure. Try connecting to a vision of your highest self when your nervous system is locked in survival mode. It doesn't work, because your body is too busy defending itself to expand. And this is where the real tragedy of discipline becomes visible. You are taught to believe that your lack of progress is a personal flaw. But it's not. It's a nervous system that's been overruled too many times to trust you anymore. Every time you ignore it, it tightens. Every time you override it, it closes. Every time you punish yourself for needing rest, it learns that safety equals suppression. And yet, discipline tells you to keep going, to grind harder, to get out of your comfort zone. But if your comfort zone has been hijacked by cortisol, then escaping it doesn't lead to growth. It leads to collapse. You don't need to push through. You need to rewire. You need to return your body to a state of trust, where rest isn't guilt, where slowness isn't laziness, where your nervous system isn't just tolerating life, but participating in it fully. This is not about weakness. It's about sovereignty. It's about taking back the controls from a system that's been hijacked by fear, pressure, and outdated ideas of success. You cannot force your way into flow. You must earn your way into it, through regulation, through alignment, through presence. The invisible stress loop is real, but so is the way out. Next, we will turn our focus to the hidden trap inside even your best habits. Because once you've normalized stress, even your routines can become rituals of suppression dressed as progress. And we're going to expose that trap, once and for all. Now that you've seen how discipline silently traps your nervous system in a constant stress loop, it's time to look at something even more deceptive. The habits you've been told are helping you. Maybe doing the exact opposite. Not because habits are bad, but because once they become unconscious, they can mutate from useful systems into energetic cages. Let's talk about how that happens. You start with good intentions. You build a routine. You set daily goals, track them in your planner, maybe even stick to it for weeks. At first, you feel a sense of structure, control, progress. But over time, something strange happens. You feel agitated when you skip a task. You feel guilty when you rest. You feel behind even when you're ahead. What you once created for freedom is now dictating how you feel. You're no longer running the system. The system is running you. This is when habits harden into handcuffs. They stop being flexible frameworks and start functioning as rigid demands. Instead of supporting your energy, they start ignoring it. Instead of enhancing your presence, they begin pulling you out of it. Here's the paradox. You built habits to gain momentum, but momentum without alignment leads to misdirection. You end up locked in routines that no longer match your reality. But because they worked before, you keep doing them. Because they look productive, you keep validating them. Because everyone else praises consistency, you keep pushing. But internally, you feel the resistance building, the drag, the burnout creeping in. And yet, you stay loyal to the schedule. That's not mastery. That's entrapment. The truth is, habits can be just as numbing as chaos. Because both are patterns that disconnect you from real-time awareness. And the more you automate your life without tuning in to your frequency, the more disconnected you become from your signal. Let's break this further. Aligned behavior arises from moment-to-moment awareness. It honors your body, your capacity, your season, your truth. Rigid habits bypass all of that. They treat you as a machine with repeatable functions. But you're not a machine. Your energy is fluid. Your intuition is dynamic. Your clarity evolves. When a habit no longer serves your current state, and you continue performing it out of duty or guilt, it becomes spiritual self-abandonment. And here's the irony. You might still get results, but they'll cost more than they're worth. Because habits without alignment often come at the expense of joy, creativity, and well-being. And eventually, even those external results start to decay. Why? Because you're not sourcing your energy from your truth, you're sourcing it from pressure. and pressure has a shelf life. Let's look at an example without naming anything specific. Someone builds a morning routine they love: meditation, movement, journaling. Feels amazing for a while, but 1 week their sleep patterns shift. Their creative energy moves to the evenings. Life enters a new season. Instead of adjusting to that shift, they guilt themselves for not sticking to the winning formula. They lose trust in their body. They label themselves inconsistent. And that internal fracture? That's what keeps them stuck. Not the change in schedule, not the skip task, but the refusal to flow with their own evolution. That's the real issue. So how do you know when a habit has become a handcuff? Simple. Ask yourself, does this energize me or drain me? Do I feel free or trapped after I do this? Am I aligned or just compliant? The answers will tell you everything. Because in a state of alignment, your daily behaviors become extensions of your current truth, not imitations of past success. You no longer live from habit memory. You live from present intelligence. And that's when habits become sacred, not because they're rigid, but because they're responsive, because they serve your alignment, not demand your obedience. Discipline taught you that success requires repetition. Quantum alignment shows you that success requires resonance. And resonance is always now. So the next time you feel yourself forcing a routine that no longer fits, pause. Don't judge, but do listen. Because the voice telling you, this doesn't feel right anymore, isn't sabotage. It's your intelligence waking back up. Next, we will uncover why trying to force anything at all, habit, behavior, or result, never works long-term. And we'll explore what happens inside your brain when you stop using force and start activating flow. This is where real science meets real liberation. You've seen how habits, when left unchecked, become cages that drain you instead of energizing you. Now, let's ground this conversation in science. Let's bring the brain into focus. Because the clash between discipline and alignment isn't just psychological. It's neurological. And once you see how force and flow play out in your actual wiring, everything starts to make sense. Let's start with the basics. Your brain is a pattern-detecting machine. It's constantly scanning for cues, assigning meaning, and creating shortcuts. That's how habits form. But here's what most people don't realize. The brain has two major operating systems. One is based on control. The other is based on presence. Control is where force lives. This is the prefrontal cortex, your rational, planning, executive functioning brain. It's great for analyzing, organizing, and short-term focus. But it's also limited, because it requires constant energy input. You have to think your way through everything. You're managing dozens of micro-decisions every moment. And the more you operate from this space, the more mentally fatigued you become. This is the very engine behind burnout. Now contrast that with the second system: presence, flow, coherence. This system activates your default mode network and your autonomic synchronization, a fancy way of saying your brain and body enter real-time harmony. Here, you're not managing your actions. You're channeling them. You're not pushing. You're being pulled. Creativity surges. Insight appears. Time distorts. And guess what shuts down? Your inner critic. Your hesitation. Your self-doubt. This is what neuroscience calls the transient hypofrontality state, where your logical brain temporarily quiets down to let deeper intelligence speak. That's the flow state. And the key to it? Not discipline. Relaxation. Trust. Tuning into the moment instead of trying to control it. But here's the problem. Most people never access this mode because they've trained their nervous system to live in survival. And survival blocks flow. When your brain is scanning for danger, whether physical, emotional, or social, it reroutes energy from creative centers into protective ones. You can't generate brilliance when your system is bracing. You can't receive intuition when your circuits are jammed with noise. That's why effort alone can't unlock your best work, your best insight, your most aligned path forward. Force activates the wrong part of the brain. Flow activates the right one. And here's the kicker. The more time you spend in flow, the more neuroplastic your brain becomes. It starts reorganizing itself around presence. You develop stronger connections in areas responsible for emotional regulation, creative problem-solving, and intuitive thinking. You literally become more capable by spending time in flow. Discipline doesn't do that. It may strengthen willpower muscles short-term, but it doesn't rewire your core architecture for expanded potential. Flow does. That's the difference between managing your life and upgrading your operating system. So the real question is this: are you structuring your life around activating flow or around maintaining control? Because those two are mutually exclusive. Control squeezes life into boxes. Flow invites it to express through you. And one creates stress. The other creates expansion. You don't need more force. You need more attunement. You don't need more rigidity. You need access to the part of your brain that already knows what to do, when to do it, and how to do it with minimal resistance. This isn't mystical. It's measurable. And it's available to you once you stop gripping so hard and start allowing life to work with you. Next, we will look at what happens when you finally abandon force altogether and step into the radical alternative that replaces discipline completely: quantum alignment. This is where the game truly changes. Now that you've seen the brain-level reality behind force and flow, the next step is no longer optional. It's required. It's time to trade in your outdated model of productivity and step into a radically different one. This is where everything pivots. Not through hustle, not through hacks, but through a quantum shift. A shift from force to alignment, from control to coherence, from discipline to energetic truth. Let's define it clearly. Quantum alignment means this: your thoughts, emotions, actions, and energetic field are operating as a unified frequency. No contradiction, no resistance, no lag. Just pure resonance between what you feel, what you want, and what you do. This is not metaphor. This is physics. Because everything, your body, your words, your behaviors, emits frequency. And that frequency either repels or attracts. It either amplifies your life or distorts it. When you're aligned, your frequency is clean. That's when people say things like, "You just seem to glow lately." It's not a trick. It's coherence in motion. But here's what matters. You don't get there by pushing. You don't get there by overriding your body, silencing your intuition, or clinging to old mental scripts. You get there by tuning, moment to moment, choice by choice. It's not a grind. It's a listening. Alignment doesn't ask you to push harder. It asks you to come into harmony with what is true for you right now. That truth becomes your new GPS, and it's always broadcasting. The question is whether you're willing to hear it. Now let's be clear. Alignment is not the absence of effort. It's the right effort, the kind that feels frictionless, fueled, even enjoyable. It's the yes that rises through your body before your brain even has time to argue. It's the moment when work feels like play, when action feels like clarity, when doing feels like being. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to use alignment as a trick to get better results, while still clinging to control. They think, if I align, maybe I'll make more money. Maybe I'll finally lose the weight. Maybe I'll hit my goals faster. That's not alignment. That's manipulation. Alignment doesn't serve your ego's timeline. It reorganizes your timeline entirely. And when it does, the very definition of success begins to shift. You stop asking, how do I get there faster? You start asking, what feels fully true now? And in that question is a frequency that changes everything. Because the moment you live in truth, the right actions reveal themselves without you needing to search. Opportunities that match your energy show up. People aligned with your resonance cross your path. That's not magic. That's entrainment, the tendency of systems to sync when vibrating at compatible frequencies. You don't need to chase. You need to tune. Let's bring this into a practical lens. When you're aligned, tasks that used to take hours can flow out of you in minutes. Because your system isn't battling itself. It's unified. Your inner yes becomes your source of power. And when you follow that yes consistently, your life begins to organize around ease. This isn't laziness. It's leverage. And here's the deepest part. Alignment doesn't come from a book. It comes from inner permission. the permission to honor your energy, to respect your timing, to trust your internal rhythm, even when it contradicts what the world expects. That trust builds a signal, and that signal builds a reality. Now you understand why the old system of discipline never worked sustainably, because it forced action from fear. Alignment sources action from truth, and truth creates velocity, effortless velocity. Once you've tasted this, you'll never crave hustle again. Next, we will explore the actual mechanics behind this quantum shift. Because if alignment is the key, then understanding vibration is the lock that opens it. You're about to learn why your frequency is more powerful than any plan, and how it silently shapes everything you do. Now that alignment has stepped into view, one truth becomes non-negotiable. Your vibration, your energetic frequency, is the hidden architect behind your actions, decisions, outcomes, and opportunities. Ignore it, and you'll keep trying to solve energetic problems with physical effort. Tune into it, and life begins organizing itself in your favor. Let's get to the core. You are an electromagnetic field, not conceptually, literally. Your heart emits electrical signals that can be measured feet outside your body. Your brain generates electromagnetic pulses with every thought. Your cells vibrate. Your emotions carry distinct frequencies. And this field isn't passive. It broadcasts. It attracts. It shapes what comes into and out of your experience. Which means you're not reacting to life. You're organizing it, moment by moment, through vibration. That's not philosophy. It's physics. The law of resonance states that frequencies attract matching frequencies. When you feel shame, you attract interactions, ideas, and opportunities that reinforce it. When you feel power, clarity, or joy, your field invites the people, timing, and momentum to match it. You're not chasing success. You're signaling it. And this brings us to a radical pivot. Your job is not to control your environment. It's to elevate your frequency, so that your environment begins reflecting your upgraded signal. This is the physics of purpose. Your alignment raises your vibration. Your vibration becomes your signal. Your signal organizes your life. It's that direct. Let's take a look at how this plays out practically. When you try to force action from a low vibration, stress, guilt, pressure, it often feels slow, heavy, or blocked. You doubt your choices. You procrastinate. You second-guess. You exhaust yourself. Not because the task is hard, but because your vibration is out of sync with the action. Now flip the script. When your frequency is high, when you feel expanded, clear, and present, action flows naturally. You don't have to push. You're pulled. You're not making things happen. You're allowing the signal to move you. So the real work isn't pushing more. It's asking, what's my frequency right now? And adjusting until it aligns with the version of life you're ready to live. That adjustment can be instant. It might be breath, stillness, movement, silence, expression. Whatever shifts your vibration, shifts your world. Let's make something else clear. Raising your vibration is not about being positive all the time. It's about being authentic. Because authenticity holds a higher frequency than false optimism ever could. Pretending to be okay lowers your field. Telling the truth, even if it's messy, activates power. Because when you're real, your signal sharpens. And clarity flows. This is why alignment cannot be faked. You can say the right things. Check the right boxes. Recite the affirmations. But if your vibration contradicts your words, the field won't lie. And life won't respond. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. What you're broadcasting energetically, consciously or not. That's why you can't skip this. Vibration isn't a spiritual add-on. It's your core operating layer. Discipline ignores this. It treats all actions as neutral, assuming repetition leads to results. But vibration shows us that who you are when you act matters infinitely more than the action itself. Because energy doesn't lie, communicates constantly, and the universe is always listening. So here's the invitation. Start treating your energy as your first priority, not an afterthought. Make your state of being the foundation, not a reward you get after achievement. When you feel off, pause. When your body resists, listen. When inspiration hits, honor it. Every moment you adjust your frequency consciously, you reclaim power from the unconscious. And that power ripples through your work, through your relationships, through the opportunities that start finding you. This is the quantum shift in action. This is the physics of purpose. Next, we will explore the one responsible for dragging you away from this power again and again. The internal voice behind pressure, shame, over-efforting, and your loyalty to discipline. It's time to meet the false self. Now that you understand how vibration dictates reality, the question becomes, if alignment is so natural, so powerful, why don't we live in it all the time? What's the voice that constantly pushes you to grind harder, ignore your intuition, and obey outdated rules? Even when every cell in your body is asking for something different, it's not just culture, it's not just habit, it's someone inside you, not your essence, not your truth, it's your false self. The false self is the internal identity created to survive a world that rewards performance over presence. It's the persona that emerged to earn love, safety, validation, and approval by becoming what the world wanted from you. Let's be blunt. The one trying to be disciplined isn't the real you. It's the version of you trained to earn worth through control. It learned early on that rest equals laziness, that perfection equals safety, that results equal love. So it works, it obeys, it hustles, performs, not because it's strong but because it's scared. And fear is the root of its every move. Fear of rejection, fear of being unworthy, fear of what might happen if you stop doing and just be. The false self thrives in structure, but not for the right reasons. It clings to discipline because it doesn't trust natural intelligence. It believes control is the only path to success. And without it, you'll fall apart. But here's the devastating cost. The more you live from this false identity, the further you drift from your real signal. The more you suppress what's true to maintain what's acceptable. And you may even start to succeed externally. But it's hollow, it's brittle, because it's not coming from the real you. That's why so many people hit their goals and feel nothing. They followed the rules, they hit the marks, but they left themselves behind to do it. And the false self will keep demanding more control, more perfection, more discipline, because no amount of external success can satisfy an identity built on internal disconnection. Let's make this practical. You've felt the conflict, that moment when you know something isn't right for you, but you say yes anyway, that instinct to rest, followed by the guilt-tripping inner voice that tells you to push through. That wave of inspiration, shut down by logic before it ever reaches expression. That's not failure. That's the false self in action. It doesn't care about joy, cares about survival. And its favorite disguise? Discipline, because discipline makes it look noble, makes it feel in control, and convinces you that your internal war is somehow virtuous. But you can't fake alignment. You can't force flow. And you can't access quantum intelligence while pretending to be someone you're not. The moment you begin identifying the false self, its tone, its language, its patterns, you take back your signal. You start recognizing the scripts it runs. Don't be lazy. Do it now or you'll fall behind. You're not consistent enough. You have to earn it. And instead of reacting to them, you observe. You watch. You decide. Because the moment you stop identifying with the false self, it loses its control. You don't need to fight it. You just need to stop feeding it. And in that space, the real you begins to emerge. The version of you that doesn't act out of pressure, but out of purpose. Not to prove worth, but to express truth. This version doesn't need to be disciplined, because it's already aligned, already clear, already attuned to a higher frequency. The false self is afraid of alignment because alignment can't be micromanaged. It unfolds, it reveals, it listens, and that terrifies the part of you that only knows safety through control. But here's the key. The false self isn't evil. It was created to protect you. So don't hate it, thank it, then release it, because it's no longer needed. You've outgrown it. Next, we will uncover exactly who takes its place. Now that you've seen the mask, we'll reconnect you with the one underneath, your real identity, tuned to truth, clarity, and quantum intelligence. Now that you've witnessed the patterns of the false self, it's time to meet someone else. The one who's been waiting beneath the masks. The one who doesn't need to prove, perform, or control. The one whose energy already knows the way forward. This is the real you, not your roles, not your resume, not your habits or your hustle, your quantum identity. And here's the truth most people never hear. You don't need to build the real you. You need to remember it, because the core of you is already aligned, already whole, already plugged into a deeper intelligence than anything you've ever read or learned. This identity doesn't operate through control. It moves from coherence. It doesn't ask, "What should I do?" It asks, "What feels completely true right now?" It doesn't grip. It listens. It doesn't race. It flows. This is the version of you that lives in constant communication with the field, reading signals, following energy, taking action when the moment is charged. You've felt it before. That moment when words pour out of you with clarity. When decisions make themselves. When the timing feels so perfect, it couldn't be coincidence. That wasn't a rare fluke. That was your signal breaking through the static. That was the real you. In real time. So how do you reclaim this identity? You stop building your life around who you think you should be and start honoring who you already are. You stop outsourcing truth to experts and start trusting the inner resonance. You stop chasing consistency and start trusting coherence. And most of all, you listen, not just to your thoughts but to your field. Because the real you communicates through energy first, logic second. Through felt signals, subtle cues, body-based intelligence. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And when you listen to that whisper, the path becomes clear. This version of you doesn't need motivation. It's powered by alignment. It doesn't need approval. It radiates certainty. It doesn't need to control others. It influences reality through presence. And the world can feel it. That's why some people walk into a room and change the energy without saying a word. Why some creators attract clients effortlessly. Why some people live in flow while others grind in circles. It's not luck. It's not hustle. It's identity. But not the identity they created. The one they remembered. So how do you live from this space more often? You start with one question. What version of me is acting right now? If it's the false self, you'll feel tension, tightness, pressure, obligation. If it's the real you, you'll feel ease, clarity, lightness, pull. The moment you become aware of this difference, you're no longer unconscious. You're awake. And the more you choose alignment over image, presence over perfection, truth over performance, the more this quantum identity becomes your default. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to fix anything. You just need to stay tuned. Because the real you is not separate from the field. It is the field. Localized. Focused. Embodied. This isn't woo-woo. It's awareness. And awareness is the most potent force in the universe. Next, we will explore how this awareness can be translated into predictable access to flow. Because once you stop chasing peak states and start living inside the flow code, alignment stops being a moment and becomes a way of life. You've now connected with the real you, clear, coherent, and energetically aligned. But this brings up a critical shift in understanding. Flow isn't a fluke. It's not a gift reserved for artists or elite performers. And it's not something you stumble into accidentally. Flow is a code. And once you understand it, you can activate it deliberately, repeatedly, predictably. Let's start by dismantling the myth. Most people treat flow like a rare high, something they fall into once in a while when all the stars align. The right mood, the perfect silence, no interruptions. And when that happens, they assume it's a random stroke of luck. It's not. Flow is the natural byproduct of a specific internal configuration. It happens when your thoughts, emotions, energy, and actions are operating in full coherence with the present moment. And just like a musical chord, when all those elements harmonize, you get resonance. You get access to power without push. You get speed without strain. That's flow. Let's make this concrete. Flow states activate a part of your brain that shuts down overthinking. It silences the internal editor. It disables fear-based filters. And it creates a channel for information, creativity, and action to move through you, undistorted. This is not mystical. It's mechanical. The code behind flow can be broken into 3 core alignments. 1. Emotional congruence. You're not suppressing. You're honest about what you feel, and that honesty creates internal clarity. 2. Energetic openness. You're not bracing against the moment. You're receptive, tuned in, present. 3. Purposeful action. You're engaged in something meaningful to you. Not forced, not obligatory, but emotionally invested. When those 3 align, flow is no longer a mystery. It becomes inevitable. Here's what's wild. When you begin living in this code, you stop needing willpower entirely. You don't have to psych yourself up. You don't need external accountability. You don't need pressure. You want to show up because the action is aligned, because your system is no longer divided. This is what traditional productivity models miss. They teach you how to do more. They never teach you how to get into alignment before you act. And that's why so many people stay stuck. They apply tactics to a misaligned system. They optimize their to-do lists while ignoring their signal. They chase efficiency while bypassing resonance. It doesn't work, because it was never about doing more. It was always about being tuned. Let's go even deeper. The flow code is extremely sensitive to energetic static. And by static, we mean internal noise, overthinking, emotional suppression, unresolved tension, outdated beliefs. You can't fake your way past it. Flow requires clarity, not perfection, just presence. And the more you practice emotional honesty, energetic awareness, and intuitive action, the stronger your flow circuit becomes. This creates compounding returns. Because every time you follow flow, your brain rewires. It begins associating clarity with momentum. It builds trust in your signal. And soon, you're no longer chasing flow. You're living in it. That's what most people don't understand. Flow isn't a moment. It's a mode. And you can live in that mode not 24/7, but far more often than you've been led to believe. It doesn't require isolation, silence, or the perfect external setup. It requires internal coherence. Once you've installed the flow code into your awareness, everything accelerates. Your work speeds up. Your ideas sharpen. Your body recovers faster. Your presence deepens. You start doing more with less and feeling better while doing it. You stop performing. You start transmitting. This is why discipline becomes irrelevant. Because once you've lived in sustained flow, anything outside of it feels like friction. And your system starts choosing alignment automatically. This is what quantum living is. It's not about control. It's about signal strength. And when your signal is clean, coherent, and aligned, life responds fast. Next, we will expose what's blocking that signal right now. You've seen how flow works. Now it's time to debug the interference. Because chances are you're still running frequencies that conflict with your alignment, and they're costing you more than you realize. You now understand that flow is code, not luck. You've seen how alignment of emotion, energy, and intention unlocks momentum that willpower could never produce. But there's a catch. Most people live their lives in a distorted field, not because they're broken, but because they're running frequencies that don't match who they truly are. These frequencies act like jamming signals. They cloud your clarity, they mute your signal, and they keep you stuck in cycles of friction, no matter how hard you try to move forward. Let's bring them into the light. There are 3 dominant frequencies that block alignment and kill flow. Not sometimes, every time. 1. The frequency of obligation. This is the I should energy. It's the frequency of guilt-driven action. You don't want to, you don't feel pulled, but you act anyway because you're trying to meet someone else's standard or avoid judgment. This frequency is heavy, carries resentment, and even if you complete the task, it drains you. Obligation creates a split in your field, because you're doing something from disconnection, not from congruence. And that split creates energetic static. How do you know you're in obligation mode? You feel tight in your chest. You fantasize about quitting. You look for distractions. And you resist the action even while doing it. Solution: don't obey the should. Pause and reconnect with truth. Ask, what feels fully aligned right now? Then listen. Even if the task remains the same, doing it from a place of resonance changes everything. 2. The frequency of proving. This is the most seductive trap for high achievers. It's the watch me energy. It says, I'll do this so I can be validated, respected, admired, seen. It looks like confidence, but it's rooted in insecurity, because it's still based on needing something from outside to feel whole. This frequency is tricky because it often fuels temporary success. You push harder, you outperform, you impress, but under the surface there's tension, fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of being exposed as inadequate, and that fear eventually cracks the foundation. You burn out, or sabotage, or achieve your goal and feel empty. The frequency of proving hijacks your energy, because it disconnects you from intrinsic motivation and reroutes your signal toward external approval. How do you clear it? By dropping the performance. By acting only from truth, not validation. Ask, would I still do this if no one clapped? If the answer is no, you're not aligned. You're performing. 3. The frequency of suppression. This one's subtle but deadly. It happens every time you silence your real thoughts, every time you swallow your emotions, every time you override discomfort with logic. Suppression blocks alignment because it creates internal noise. You're ignoring signals, and those ignored signals build tension. Tension becomes confusion. Confusion becomes inertia, and soon you don't know what's true anymore. Suppression is anti-flow, because flow requires full availability. And you can't be available to life if you're unavailable to your own feelings. Clearing this frequency means telling the truth to yourself first. Not to react, not to collapse, but to clear static. You can't shift what you won't admit. And suppression is always a refusal to admit. So ask, what am I pretending not to feel right now? Then breathe, then feel, then move. These 3 frequencies, obligation, proving, and suppression, are the root of misalignment. And the moment you stop feeding them, your signal begins to clear. And when your signal is clean, alignment becomes your default. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being tuned. And tuning is available in every moment. Next, we will rewire the very idea of motivation and show you how to access a far more powerful force, inner gravity. Because you don't need more hype. You need to become a magnet to the actions your truth already wants to take. By now, you've seen how distorted frequencies, obligation, proving, and suppression block alignment and destroy flow. But there's one more illusion we must break if you're serious about living from your signal. Let's expose one of the most glorified lies in the world of self-improvement: motivation. You've been taught that motivation is your fuel, that you need to get motivated to take action, that you must constantly spike your state, pump your mindset, and hype yourself into motion. But here's the reality. Motivation is inconsistent, unstable, and deeply unreliable. It's an emotion subject to external triggers, internal moods, and energy fluctuations. You're chasing a mental high that's always fading. And when it fades, you start questioning yourself. You think you lack discipline, willpower, or clarity. But the problem isn't you. The problem is the fuel source. Motivation is a chemical spike. You feel it when you watch an inspiring video, hear an intense story, or imagine a bold vision. But what happens after that? Your system returns to baseline. Your nervous system recalibrates. And the actions that felt magnetic now feel like effort again. That's the cycle. Spike, dip, guilt, repeat. Motivation is like caffeine. It gets you moving fast, but it also crashes you hard. And here's the worst part. Because it feels good temporarily, we start depending on it. We think we need to feel like it to move. We wait for the spark. We postpone decisions until the fire returns. But fire doesn't last. And chasing it only drains your power. So what's the alternative? It's not a different kind of motivation. It's a different kind of movement. It's called inner gravity. Inner gravity is the energetic pull you feel when you are deeply aligned with an action, a path, a choice, not because you're hyped, but because your system knows. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It doesn't give you butterflies or adrenaline. It gives you certainty, a sense of inevitability, a pull you don't have to create because it already exists. This is how alignment works. When your energy is clear, you're no longer pushing yourself toward your goals. You're being pulled toward them like gravity pulling a planet into orbit. And this kind of motion is sustainable. It doesn't rely on willpower. It doesn't need a perfect playlist. It doesn't demand mood spikes. It simply asks, does this feel true right now? And if the answer is yes, you move. Not because you're forcing yourself to act, because you're ready. Let's draw a clear distinction. Motivation says, I have to psych myself up. Inner gravity says, I'm already in motion. And here's the key difference. Motivation tries to override your resistance. Gravity listens to it. Resistance isn't always a problem. Sometimes it's a compass. It's your system's way of telling you, this isn't the time. This isn't the path. This isn't fully aligned. When you stop overriding resistance and start investigating it, you begin hearing the real signal beneath the surface. And the more you do that, the stronger your gravity becomes. Because gravity is built on integrity with your own energy. It grows every time you follow your true yes. It compounds every time you honor your intuitive no. Soon, you're no longer needing motivation at all. You don't ask, how do I get going? You ask, what is already moving through me? And when you live that way, your actions become natural, effortless, inevitable. This is the shift. From external hype to internal resonance. From performance spikes to embodied alignment. And once you stop chasing motivation and start listening for gravity, everything changes. You stop reacting to your moods. You stop measuring your worth by output. You stop needing force to move. You become self-propelling because the alignment itself creates momentum. This is the foundation of quantum action. And it's available to you right now. Next, we will build on this foundation by mapping the energetic rungs that lead from low vibration to full-flow living. You're going to discover the vibrational ladder and learn how to move from fear-based hustle to harmonic creation, step by step. Now that you've felt the difference between fleeting motivation and inner gravity, we can begin to map the landscape that makes flow a repeatable experience. Here's the truth that no productivity model will tell you. Your energy isn't static. It moves in patterns like musical notes on a scale. This is what we call the vibrational ladder. Each rung of this ladder represents a different state of consciousness, and every action you take is driven by the rung you're currently standing on. Let's walk through the 7 rungs of this energetic scale. Rung 1, suppression. Here, you're not just avoiding action, you're avoiding truth. You're disconnected, numb, pretending you're fine when you're not. Feels like silence. But not the peaceful kind. It's the deadness that comes from emotional denial. No clarity, no movement, just inner static. Rung 2, struggle. This is the default mode of the hustle world. Everything feels uphill. You're forcing, grinding, performing for approval. You might be producing, but it costs your peace. And your results are unpredictable. Rung 3, frustration. Now there's awareness. You know something isn't right. You're tired of the grind. You feel the drag. But you haven't yet discovered the alternative. This is the turning point. The discomfort is now conscious. You're getting ready to move. Rung 4, curiosity. You stop blaming yourself. You start asking better questions. You begin exploring energy, intuition, and alignment, not as buzzwords but as tools. You're open. And openness changes everything. Rung 5, clarity. You begin accessing truth not as theory, but as a felt experience. You recognize your no. You feel your yes. And for the first time in a long time, you trust yourself again. This is where inner gravity starts to take hold. Rung 6, harmony. Your actions match your energy. Your timing feels perfect. You speak and move from a place of internal knowing. People notice. Opportunities align. Life starts feeling less like a puzzle and more like a song. This is the beginning of sustained flow. Rung 7, transmission. You're no longer trying to create results. You are the result. You become a tuning fork for truth. You transmit clarity, certainty, presence without needing to convince, control, or push. This is mastery, and it's not rare. It's just under-practiced. Now let's make something clear. These rungs aren't linear. You can move up and down throughout the day. The power lies in knowing where you are so you can shift consciously. If you're in suppression, the move isn't to force productivity. It's to feel what's been ignored. If you're in frustration, the move isn't to find motivation. It's to get curious without judgment. If you're already in clarity or harmony, the move is to trust and allow, not overthink. This ladder is not a test. It's a map. And when you use it, you stop judging your state and start upgrading it. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop resisting your energy and start listening to it. And the more time you spend in the upper rungs, the easier it is to catch yourself when you fall and rise again quickly. Because now you're aware. You're tuned. You're practicing frequency fluency. This is what hustle never taught you. That your best performance doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from rising higher. You don't need to chase more productivity. You need to raise your state. And when your vibration rises, your results rise with it. Next, we will get even more practical. You're going to learn the quantum alignment ritual, a 3-minute daily method that upgrades your field, sharpens your signal, and locks you into the upper rungs every single day. You now understand the vibrational ladder, the spectrum of energy states from suppression to transmission. You've seen how every action, decision, and outcome is shaped by the rung you're standing on. Now let's take this from concept to practice. It's time to install a daily ritual that realigns your field and upgrades your frequency. Quickly, consistently, and powerfully. This is not a morning routine. It's not another box to check. It's a quantum-level calibration. It doesn't take 30 minutes. It doesn't require candles, chanting, or complicated sequences. It takes 3 minutes. And it works because it operates on one principle: alignment over automation. The purpose of this ritual is not to do more. It's to make sure everything you do emerges from a clean signal. You can run it once per day, or multiple times, before key decisions, before creative work, before anything that matters. The process is simple, but its effects are exponential. Let's break it down. Step 1. Pause and scan. 60 seconds. The first move is silence. Stop. Breathe. Close the tabs in your mind. Then ask one question. What frequency am I in right now? You don't have to label it perfectly. Just notice. Is there tension? Is there noise? Is there pull or pressure? This isn't about judgment. It's about clarity. You're becoming the observer, not the actor. You're pulling your awareness out of the old loops and back into presence. Most people never pause long enough to notice their energetic state. They just react. They just do. But you're not most people. And this single minute of scanning gives you back control, not over life, but over your signal. Step 2. Feel and acknowledge. 60 seconds. Whatever you find in the scan, name it. Out loud if possible. Let the truth surface. I feel tense. I'm spinning in my head. I'm trying to control the outcome. I feel clear. Let's go. No need to analyze. No need to fix. Just acknowledge. This breaks the suppression loop. And the moment you acknowledge truth, your system begins to realign on its own. Truth is self-liberating. When it's spoken without drama or resistance, it creates energetic movement. You stop bracing. You start opening. And opening is the doorway to alignment. Step 3. Align and choose. 60 seconds. Now you're ready to shift. This is where you decide. What frequency do I choose right now? Not from fantasy, from integrity. You're not trying to escape your state. You're choosing the next rung of the ladder. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's clarity. Maybe it's harmony. Name it, then breathe into it. Let your posture shift. Let your breath deepen. Let your field reconfigure. Then take your first action from that frequency. That one move, however small, locks in the shift. Because energy doesn't change from thinking. It changes through embodied choice. These 3 minutes are enough to change your day. And when practiced consistently, they change your entire life. Because they train your system to do something most people never master. Tune before acting. They teach your field that you lead not from pressure, but from presence. And here's where it gets even more powerful. The more often you run this ritual, the more sensitive you become to misalignment. You'll start noticing faster when your energy drops. You'll recover faster. You'll stop spirals before they gain momentum. This is not spiritual practice. This is frequency hygiene. And just like brushing your teeth keeps your mouth clean, this keeps your signal clean. So many people try to succeed while carrying the energetic residue of yesterday's confusion, guilt, fear, and resistance. They wonder why progress feels heavy. It's because they're dragging static through every moment. This ritual ends that. It gives you access to fresh alignment on demand. And when practiced, it becomes effortless. Not a ritual you perform, but a state you live in. And the most beautiful part? Keeps you honest. Because you can't fake your way through this. If you're forcing a decision, this ritual will reveal it. If you're chasing validation, this ritual will expose it. If you're resisting clarity, this ritual will dissolve the fog. It's not about being perfect. It's about being tuned. Every single day. Next, we will take this further. Now that you can realign anytime, it's time to learn how to stop relying on other people's frameworks altogether. Because when you start following your inner compass, intuition replaces instruction, and life gets very, very accurate. Now that you've activated a practical ritual for moment-to-moment alignment, the next evolution is learning how to navigate without external maps. It's time to install your alignment compass. This is the part of you that knows the direction not logically but energetically. It doesn't need checklists. It doesn't follow formulas. It feels truth and moves. Let's be clear. The alignment compass is not about instinctive reaction. It's about energetic clarity. It's not emotion. It's not impulse. It's knowing before proof, before permission, before results. You've already experienced it. The inner pull toward something that made no sense but felt undeniably true. The quiet voice that told you to pause, pivot, speak, or walk away. Not out of fear, but from depth. That's the compass. And once you recognize it, you'll never go back to asking for permission to move. Here's the core truth. Most people live according to instruction. They follow templates. They seek validation. They outsource their authority. But instruction is always past-based. The static. It's designed for the average, not the aligned. Your compass is alive. It adjusts in real time. It doesn't need to know why. It just needs to be trusted. Let's explore the signs that you're following instruction, not intuition. You feel uncertain until someone else confirms your decision. You hesitate even when your body says yes. You need constant strategy to feel safe. You override your inner nudge with logical arguments. And here's the kicker. No strategy will work if it contradicts your signal. Even the best framework will fail if it pulls you out of coherence. So what activates the compass? Presence, stillness, and most of all, self-trust. You don't need to seek direction when you're already tuned. Direction rises. Answers appear. Decisions land. The compass works when noise clears. That's why your first job is not to figure it out. It's to clear the static. Drop the pressure. Delete the rules. And then listen. One powerful way to sharpen your compass is this. Start making micro-decisions from resonance. Not life-changing choices. Small ones. What to eat. When to rest. Who to reply to. When to speak or stay silent. Ask, which option feels more clean in my field? Which path feels like expansion, not contraction? Over time, this builds a relationship. You begin to trust the signal. And the signal begins to strengthen. You stop waiting. You start knowing. And you begin moving with a kind of quiet certainty that no one else needs to validate. This is where your power multiplies. Because you're no longer managing your life with mental spreadsheets. You're receiving the next step. One moment at a time. And this is where quantum alignment fully takes over. You no longer control your life, you co-create it. You don't calculate the path, you tune to it. And once you're tuned, the signal leads. This is not passive. It's deeply participatory. But the participation isn't effort. It's presence. You're available to the moment, and the moment responds. This compass is your most sacred tool, because once you follow it consistently, life stops being chaotic. It becomes choreographed, not because you control the outcome, but because you're aligned with the unfolding. And that unfolding becomes your new GPS, more accurate than logic, more reliable than any plan, more potent than any system. Next, we will dismantle the fear that often shows up here. The fear that alignment is lazy, that ease is weakness, and that flow means doing nothing. It's time to obliterate that myth and show you how aligned action is the most leveraged force you'll ever experience. You now have a functioning inner compass. You've begun moving not from pressure or planning, but from signal. But at this stage, an old voice often creeps in, subtle, persistent, and deeply conditioned. It whispers, if you stop pushing, won't you fall behind? If it's not hard, are you doing enough? If you're flowing, does that mean you're lazy? This voice is one of the final strongholds of the discipline paradigm. And to truly move into quantum alignment, it must be dissolved completely. Let's make it clear. Alignment is not laziness. It is leverage. Laziness is avoidance. Laziness is rooted in disconnection. Laziness comes from a system that's shut down, numb, or running from responsibility. Alignment is the opposite. Alignment requires presence. It demands truth. It asks you to stay connected to your body, your energy, and your field at all times. And that's not easy. It's radically honest. It's deeply participatory. But here's the shift. When you act from alignment, your energy is clean. Your timing is precise. Your results multiply because you're no longer using brute force. You're using resonance. Resonance creates velocity. Alignment creates leverage. You take one step and 10 outcomes shift. You make one decision and clarity ripples through 5 different areas of your life. You send one message and an entire opportunity opens. That's not magic. That's energetic efficiency. Alignment removes resistance. And without resistance, everything accelerates. So let's reframe this forever. If someone labels aligned action as laziness, they're revealing their addiction to suffering. They don't trust ease because they were trained to equate effort with virtue. But effort is not inherently virtuous. It's often a sign of inefficiency, a mismatch between energy and action. Let's go deeper. In alignment, rest is not indulgence. It's intelligence. Stillness isn't avoidance. It's tuning. You pause not because you're unmotivated, but because you're listening for right timing. And when the moment comes, you act with such precision that the need for extra effort disappears. That's not lazy. That's quantum intelligence in motion. Let's look at the practical signs that you're in leverage. You feel energized by what you're doing, even if it's intense. You don't need external pressure to act. Your inner pull is enough. You're not multitasking or scrambling. You're present and effective. You can stop without guilt because you know the action is complete. Now compare that to the traditional model of hard work. Constant fatigue, reliance on willpower, guilt for resting, stress as a status symbol. That's not sustainable. It's not smart. And it's not required anymore. The belief that ease is weakness is one of the last chains of the industrial mindset. It was installed to keep you producing, even when your system was screaming for recalibration. But you're not here to be a machine. You're here to be a signal. And that signal becomes more powerful the moment you stop measuring your value by how much you do and start measuring it by how aligned you are when you do it. Leverage isn't about shortcuts. It's about source power. It's about doing less from a higher frequency and watching results scale beyond logic. And this is why alignment is the ultimate productivity upgrade. Not because you're working harder, but because your work is sourced from a deeper truth. Let's make this real. 2 hours of action from flow will outperform 2 weeks of disciplined grind. Because the aligned version of you has access to faster insights, cleaner decisions, and more receptive environments. Why? Because your energy leads. And energy doesn't lie. You can't fake presence. You can't force harmony. And when you're aligned, people feel it. Systems respond to it. Life opens to it. So the next time the voice of old conditioning tries to make you feel guilty for flowing, you can smile, because you're no longer playing the game of effort worship. You're tuned. You're clear. You're leveraged. Next, we will break down one of the oldest illusions in the game: goal setting. You're going to discover why goals so often collapse under pressure, and how vision, not target chasing, is the new path to exponential outcomes. You've now unlocked the principle of leverage. You've seen how alignment creates exponential results without relying on stress or grind. But now we arrive at the big one: goals. This is where even conscious creators get stuck. Because traditional goal setting is a relic from the same paradigm as discipline. It assumes you can plot your life like a spreadsheet. Define a target, break it down, hit the mark. Sounds logical, but it's often completely misaligned with how energy, timing, and consciousness actually function. Let's start with the obvious. Goals often fail, not because people are lazy, but because the goal was based on external pressure, not internal resonance. They set goals from their head, not their field. They chase numbers because they feel behind. They seek milestones to prove something. But that kind of goal doesn't pull you forward. It drags you sideways, because it was created in disconnection. And energy set in disconnection rarely sustains momentum. Here's the pattern. Set the goal. Feel hyped. Start moving. Resistance builds. Guilt grows. The goal dies or gets achieved hollowly. You've seen it. Maybe you've lived it. So here's the shift. Stop chasing goals. Start following vision. Vision is not a static number. It's a living frequency. It's a felt direction that moves through your system, not as pressure, but as a pull. You don't need to define every detail. You just need to feel the clarity of where life wants to move through you. And when you align with that signal, action becomes inevitable. This is the key difference. Goals equals external target. Vision equals internal resonance. Goals demand motivation. Vision generates momentum. Goals are fragile. One bad week and you feel behind. One unexpected detour and your plan collapses. But vision is flexible. It adapts. It moves with you. It grows as you grow. Vision doesn't ask for rigidity. It asks for trust. It doesn't want micromanagement. It wants alignment. And here's the most powerful part. When you're moving from vision, life begins to orchestrate with you. You attract the people, resources, timing, and insight that match your vibration. You don't need to control the how. You stay tuned to the why and the rest unfolds. Let's be practical. To activate vision, ask, what outcome feels alive in my body, not just exciting in my mind? What direction feels like expansion, not pressure? What am I becoming? Not just what am I achieving? Your answers are the signal. And once you tune to that signal, you'll feel a distinct pull. Follow that. Then let each step reveal itself. Not from planning, but from presence. You'll notice the right actions appear. The right moments emerge. The next steps become obvious. This isn't random. This is vision doing what goals never could, pulling you forward from the inside. You're no longer trying to manipulate outcomes. You're collaborating with them. This is how quantum living works. Not by forcing timelines, but by trusting that resonance organizes reality more intelligently than logic ever could. So if goals have left you drained, stuck, or uninspired, good. You're ready to graduate. From chasing to channeling, from performance to purpose. Next, we will address the very force that often attacks you once momentum begins: ego backlash. Because once you're moving from truth, your old patterns may panic. Let's show you how to stay aligned through the sabotage and never stall again. You've now seen how true vision pulls. You've begun to feel the difference between chasing a goal and becoming a signal. But right when things start flowing, something strange often happens. A voice returns. Doubt creeps in. Distractions multiply. Your clarity slips. You start second-guessing everything. This is not failure. This is a backlash. And it's not random. It's a predictable response from the ego, the part of your psyche that's built to maintain your current identity. The ego is not evil. It's a security system. It doesn't care if you're happy. It cares if you're familiar, if you're predictable, if you stay within the bounds of what's already known. So when you begin shifting into true alignment, into quantum identity, into new levels of flow and trust, the ego senses danger, and it deploys its favorite weapon, self-sabotage. Not because it wants you to suffer, but because it wants you to stay the same. Let's break this down clearly. Self-sabotage is not weakness. It's a conflict between your expansion and your conditioning. Expansion says, this path feels true. Let's move. Conditioning says, but we've never been here before. That's not safe. And when those two collide, friction shows up. Here's how it looks. You suddenly lose momentum after a breakthrough. You distract yourself with unnecessary problems. You pick fights, procrastinate, or ghost your own desires. You feel foggy, tired, uncertain, for no obvious reason. This is not lack of clarity. This is your identity structure trying to regulate your growth. Because deep down, your current self-image can only tolerate so much change at once. This is the conflict. The version of you committed to alignment is not the version of you your ego was built to protect. So the ego fights to preserve what it knows. But now you have a choice. You can collapse back into old patterns and call it realism. Or you can recognize what's happening and transcend it. Here's how. Step 1. Normalize the backlash. Stop treating sabotage like failure. Start treating it like a signpost. A signal that you're brushing up against your identity ceiling. When sabotage shows up, say, this means I'm expanding. That shift in perception diffuses the guilt spiral and returns you to observation. Step 2. Acknowledge the ego's voice without obeying it. You might hear, this is too risky. You're not ready. This won't last. Instead of fighting the voice, listen to it with neutrality. Let it finish. Then ask, is this voice aligned with my highest frequency, or just protecting the past? Your body will know the answer. Step 3. Re-anchor into your signal. Sabotage pulls you out of coherence. So the antidote is simple. Return to alignment. Use your daily ritual. Scan your field. Feel the fear, but don't collapse into it. Ask, what is still true beneath this discomfort? The moment you reconnect to that truth, sabotage loses its grip. Step 4. Take one aligned action. Immediately. The worst thing you can do during backlash is freeze. The ego thrives on indecision. But one simple action, sourced from clarity, reclaims your frequency. It doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be real. Because aligned action restores momentum with integrity. And that's what collapses the old loop. Let's reframe the entire concept of sabotage. Sabotage is not a personal flaw. It's a moment of resistance revealing a deeper layer of identity that's ready to evolve. And that's the gift. Because every time you move through it with awareness, your nervous system adapts. Your inner identity updates. You build capacity for expansion. Soon, what once triggered sabotage becomes your new baseline. You don't need to eliminate the ego. You just need to lead it. You're the signal now, not the story. And when you lead from alignment, even the backlash becomes part of the upgrade. Next, we will explore what happens when you stop reacting and start listening to quantum intelligence in real time. Because once you've stopped battling sabotage, you're ready to receive the signal behind the signal and act from intelligence far beyond the mind. You've now seen how sabotage is nothing more than the ego's outdated code trying to keep you safe. You've practiced returning to alignment, choosing presence, and taking action from clarity. So what happens when that inner noise begins to quiet, and you stop asking the mind to solve everything? You create space. And in that space, something far more powerful begins to speak. Welcome to quantum intelligence. This is not a mystical concept. It's the field of information and energy that exists beyond your linear mind, but within you all the time. It's the signal that arrives before the thought. It's the clarity that drops without effort. It's the path that reveals itself when you stop trying to predict it. This intelligence isn't reactive. It doesn't live in survival mode. It's expansive, calm, instant. And the more time you spend in alignment, the more available this intelligence becomes. Let's define it clearly. Quantum intelligence is the moment-to-moment guidance that emerges from the field itself, your connection to a non-linear, multidimensional source of clarity. It is not based on memory. It is not based on analysis. It is live now and precise. You've felt it before. The sentence that drops into your mouth with perfect timing. The instinct to walk away just before something went wrong. The spontaneous yes to an opportunity you didn't plan for. That wasn't guessing. That was receiving. You were tuned. You were clear. So the field could speak. This is how creators, leaders, and innovators stay ahead of the curve. Not through research, through reception. They don't predict the wave. They feel it first. So how do you tap into this intelligence on demand? Let's break it down. Step 1. Empty your internal noise. Quantum intelligence can't speak over chaos. So if your mind is looping, your body is tense, or your emotions are unprocessed, you won't hear it. The solution isn't to silence everything. It's to notice the noise and let it settle. Breath, stillness, awareness. These are the tools that reopen the signal. Step 2. Ask clean questions. Quantum answers require quantum inquiries. Ask questions like, what is my highest aligned move right now? What feels fully true in this moment? What would my signal choose? Not my strategy? Then pause. Let the answer land. Don't force it. Don't logic your way to it. Just allow the knowing to emerge. And it will. It might not be in words. It might be a sensation, a pull, a burst of clarity. Honor it. Step 3. Trust the first signal. Your mind will want to analyze, to double-check, to compare. Don't. Quantum intelligence speaks fast and quiet. It doesn't yell, and it doesn't repeat itself. So the first signal is usually the cleanest. The more you honor it, the louder it gets. The more you delay it, the dimmer it becomes. This is a relationship, and like all relationships, it strengthens through trust. Step 4. Act while the window is open. This field gives you windows of momentum. When the clarity lands, move. Even if it's uncomfortable. Even if it contradicts your plan. Even if no one else understands. Anchor it into your reality. This teaches your system to operate from guidance, not guesswork. Let's be clear, this isn't about magical thinking. It's about energetic precision. The more often you source your decisions from this intelligence, the more accurate, efficient, and fulfilling your life becomes. Because you're not reacting to life anymore. You're co-creating with it. This is not luck. It's not gifted to a few. It's your natural capacity, unlocked by alignment. And it doesn't just apply to big decisions. It applies to everything. From how you speak, to how you create, to how you show up in the smallest moments. You become a channel, a transmitter of intelligence. Not in theory, in practice, every day. Next, we will reveal why this intelligence was never taught in school, and why reclaiming energy mastery is the missing curriculum you've always needed. You've now tapped into quantum intelligence. You've felt it. You've heard it. You've begun trusting it. But there's one more layer we need to expose before full integration becomes natural. It's not about how to move forward. It's about understanding why this path was never obvious to begin with. Let's tell the truth that almost no system admits. You were never taught how to master your energy. Not in school. Not in most homes. Not in the environments you were raised in. You were taught to obey structure, to memorize, to comply, to prepare for tests and regurgitate formulas. But you were never taught how to read your field, how to feel your frequency, how to regulate your nervous system, how to distinguish mental noise from embodied truth. This wasn't an accident. It was a design, because an individual who can tune to their own energy becomes very difficult to control. They stop outsourcing their power. They stop chasing hollow achievement. They start moving from an unshakable core. And that threatens every system built on compliance. Let's break this further. You were taught how to analyze but not how to sense. How to work harder but not how to restore. How to stay consistent but not how to listen to your natural cycles. You learned about gravity, history, grammar, and math, but not about the force that powers all of it, your own energetic field. Think about that. How is it that, in over a decade of formal education, not one classroom trained you to recognize your state, to feel when your body said no, to honor your inner yes, to recover your power after it was drained, to distinguish pressure from resonance? You were trained to override, not to align. And because of that, most people enter adulthood fully equipped to function, but completely unequipped to feel. They burn out before 30. They chase approval until 40. They wonder why everything looks good on paper, but feels hollow on the inside. The missing piece? Energy mastery. Let's define it clearly. Energy mastery is the ability to sense, shift, and sustain your energetic field consciously, so that your actions arise from coherence, not chaos. It means you know when you're aligned and when you're not. You recognize energetic leaks before they become burnout. You recover your clarity within minutes, not months. You move when your field says yes and pause when it says no. This is what creates true success. Not just results, but results that feel like you. And it's a skill, not a mystery, not a gift. A trainable, learnable skill. Let's walk through the pillars of energy mastery. 1. Awareness. You can't shift what you won't sense. So the first key is awareness. Noticing your internal state without judgment. Ask, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? What am I ignoring or overriding? What's moving through me? And is it mine? This single habit changes everything. 2. Regulation. Once you're aware of a misalignment, you must stabilize it. This isn't about pretending to feel good. It's about bringing your nervous system back into coherence. Use your breath. Use stillness. Use movement. Use sound. The method doesn't matter. The shift does. 3. Direction. Now that you're regulated, where are you pointing your field? Where attention goes, energy flows. Are you aligning with lack or abundance? With fear or clarity? With proving or transmitting? You get to choose, and your system will follow that choice. 4. Embodiment. Now bring it into motion. Speak from that energy. Create from that energy. Decide from that energy. That's embodiment. It's not about what you know. It's about what your body becomes. This is energy mastery in motion. And once this becomes your default, life gets very simple. You don't need to obsess over routines. You don't need 12-step plans or discipline hacks. You simply manage your field. Because when your field is clean, your reality reflects it. This is the curriculum we should have been taught. But now you're learning it. You're becoming fluent in your own frequency. And in doing so, you're reclaiming the part of you that no system could ever touch, your sovereign signal. Next, we will zoom out. You've gained tools. You've practiced presence. Now it's time to organize your entire life through a new architecture. You're going to be introduced to the alignment map, a complete, upgraded operating system that replaces discipline forever. So far, you've developed clarity around energy. You've learned to regulate your field, move from signal, and trust your quantum intelligence. But tools alone aren't enough. If you want consistency in your alignment, you need structure. Not the old, rigid kind. A new kind built from resonance, not control. This is where we install your alignment map. Think of it as your energetic operating system, a way to organize your life, actions, and choices around frequency, not force. This is the new framework. Not based on obligation, not rooted in external goals, but sourced from the flow of who you are. Let's build it together. The alignment map is made of 4 domains. 1. Energy. This is your foundation. Ask daily, what is my energetic baseline today? Am I starting my day from depletion or alignment? What practices restore me fastest? This isn't self-care fluff. It's frequency management. You don't execute plans, you transmit signals. So this becomes non-negotiable. 2. Expression. This is how you move energy into the world. Ask, am I expressing from alignment or performing for validation? Is my creativity spontaneous or calculated? What wants to come through me today? Whether it's writing, speaking, creating, or leading, expression is how your frequency becomes tangible. This is no longer about being consistent. It's about being coherent. 3. Connection. This is your field of resonance with others. Ask, are my relationships expanding or draining my field? Do I feel amplified or reduced after time with this person? Is this dynamic built on truth or pattern? You don't need more connections. You need aligned ones. One aligned relationship can multiply your field more than 1,000 surface-level interactions. 4. Contribution. This is where alignment meets service. Ask, what is the most aligned way for me to serve today? Where does my energy create the most natural impact? Am I forcing impact or allowing it? Contribution doesn't come from effort. It comes from overflow, from tuning your frequency so precisely that it ripples into others effortlessly. When all 4 domains, energy, expression, connection, contribution, are aligned, life becomes organized around truth. Not schedules, not checklists, truth. Now here's the real power. This map isn't static. It flexes with your seasons, with your state, with your signal. It doesn't lock you in. It liberates your energy into intentional flow. It replaces your old routine. Because routine was designed for predictability. The alignment map is designed for resonance. And once you begin operating from it, your days feel different. Your body doesn't dread the calendar. Your decisions aren't heavy. Your output doesn't cost you your presence. Everything begins to synchronize. This is the life the discipline model could never offer. Because discipline asks for sacrifice. Alignment asks for truth. The map becomes your new compass. It doesn't force. It reflects. And it evolves as you do. So use it. Scan your 4 domains every morning. Adjust them consciously. Notice where energy is leaking. Notice where resonance wants to expand. This is not a task. It's an invitation. An invitation to live architected by truth, trust, and transmission. Next, we will bring this map into your most important external arena, relationships. Because when you live aligned, your relationships transform. Let's show you how people become portals. When your energy leads. You now have a living framework, your alignment map. You're no longer managing life from control. You're tuning it from coherence. But alignment isn't just an internal game. It extends into your relationships. And this is where many people still operate from the old model without realizing it. Let's make something clear. Your frequency doesn't stop at your skin. Your energy field communicates before you speak, listen, or act. And the moment you become aligned, the people in your life respond to your new signal. Some will rise with you, some will resist, some will disappear. All of it is signal. This chapter is not about managing relationships. It's about recognizing when they become portals, gateways that either elevate or suppress your field. When you're misaligned, you attract relationships that reflect your confusion. You settle for dynamics that validate your wounding. You tolerate patterns because you're matching them energetically. But when you return to coherence, everything shifts. Let's break this into 3 realities. 1. Resonance replaces obligation. Aligned relationships don't require convincing, fixing, or explaining. They're not effort-based. They're frequency-based. You stop asking, do they get me? And start asking, does this expand me? The most powerful relationships won't always be the most comfortable, but they will feel clear, charged, honest, alive. 2. Conversations become calibrations. When you're aligned, you start to notice how every interaction either lifts or lowers your field. You walk away from someone and feel depleted. Pay attention. You speak with someone and feel a charge of possibility. Follow that. This isn't emotional volatility. It's energetic sensitivity. And it's how you navigate the relational layer of alignment. Ask yourself, did this exchange leave me more centered or more scattered? Am I showing up as my full self or a filtered version? Do I feel like I'm shrinking, fixing, or masking in this connection? Your answers will guide you more clearly than any advice. 3. Alignment dissolves codependency. Codependency thrives in misalignment. It says, if I manage you well enough, I'll feel safe. Aligned relationships break that completely. They don't need managing. They're built on mutual self-responsibility. Both people are tuning their own signal and meeting each other from overflow. There's no guilt for needing space. No shame for shifting direction. No manipulation under the disguise of care. This is a new paradigm of relating, not built on shared wounds, built on shared alignment. But here's the important shift. You don't create aligned relationships by finding better people. You create them by becoming more aligned with yourself. Your field does the filtering. As you tune your energy, some dynamics will fade without drama. Others will deepen without effort. And a few may explode to reveal what was never real to begin with. Let it happen. Your nervous system may try to interpret this as rejection or loss. But it's not. It's calibration. It's your external world matching your upgraded field. This is why relationships are portals. They reflect where you are and often where you're going. Aligned people don't just walk beside you. They activate you. They mirror clarity. They remind you who you are. They challenge distortion not through conflict, but through coherence. So ask yourself, who in my life feels like a portal to my highest timeline? Who drains me, distracts me, or keeps me anchored in my past identity? Where am I still pretending in order to maintain comfort? Let the answers be clean. Then let the realignment begin. You don't need to ghost people. You don't need to make them wrong. You just need to walk in truth and let resonance organize your tribe. Because in this frequency, relationships become less about fixing and more about fusing. Less about loyalty to history and more about loyalty to frequency. Next, we will carry this principle directly into your wealth field. Because if you're still earning based on effort, grind, or guilt, you're building wealth from lack. Let's break that completely and show you how alignment changes how you receive money forever. You've seen how aligned relationships are frequency mirrors, revealing where your energy is and where it's heading. Now we move into a domain that most people keep energetically locked down: wealth. This is where old programming hides behind the mask of responsibility, where pressure is labeled as purpose, where struggle is glamorized as value creation. Let's say it directly: effort-based earning is outdated. Not because effort is bad, but because when effort comes from misalignment, it disconnects you from your receiving field. And money becomes a reward for suffering, not a reflection of alignment. You were taught that income follows grind, that long hours, stress, and delayed gratification earn you success. But this conditioning came from survival-era economics, where resources were finite and labor was transactional. We don't live in that world anymore. We live in a frequency-based economy, where energy, intention, coherence, and clarity move faster than strategy, hustle, or negotiation ever could. So here's the real question. Are you earning from resonance or repetition? Is your income matching your alignment or your addiction to proving? Let's look at the core illusions of effort-based earning. Illusion 1, you have to trade time for money. Truth, you're trading value, not time. And value is determined by alignment. When you're aligned, 10 minutes of your time can carry more clarity than 10 hours of someone else's noise. It's not about how long you work. It's about how potent your presence is when you do. Illusion 2. More stress equals more results. Truth. Stress is not power. It's resistance. You don't need pressure to perform. You need clarity. Because when your signal is clean, opportunities arrive through resonance, not strain. Illusion 3. You have to earn your worth. Truth. Your worth is not up for negotiation. You don't attract money because you've proven enough. You attract it when your energy is a clear match for what you're ready to hold. Money is not earned through exhaustion. It's received through alignment with receiving. This is the shift. From chasing clients to attracting resonance. From pricing your time to valuing your frequency. From solving problems to amplifying presence. Let's get practical. To activate aligned wealth, ask, is my current work an extension of my highest clarity? Do I feel open and available to receive without proving? Am I holding guilt or shame around easeful abundance? If guilt shows up, notice it. That guilt is a residue of programming. It says, you must suffer to earn. Let it go. Ease is not unethical. Alignment is not indulgent. You don't become less valuable by feeling good. You become more magnetic. Because money is not moral. It's magnetic. It flows to coherence, to presence, to clean intention. You don't have to demand more. You have to resonate higher. This is why aligned wealth doesn't come from pushing. It comes from tuning your field until receiving becomes natural. This means you stop discounting your value to avoid discomfort. You stop justifying your rates to feel legitimate. You stop over-delivering to compensate for invisible guilt. Aligned wealth comes through overflow, not overfunctioning. And it's scalable not because you work harder, but because your signal gets stronger. Let's redefine success. It's not how hard you work. It's how clearly you transmit. It's not what you earn under pressure. It's what flows to you while in alignment. The moment you stop tying money to martyrdom, you unlock the true field of wealth. Receiving with resonance. Serving with overflow. Circulating abundance without attachment. This is not fantasy. It's the new economy of energy. And you're already in it. Now you're awake to it. Next, we will explore what happens when you live this way long enough, and the universe begins to move with you. Synchronicities speed up. Events align. Reality starts working for you. This isn't magic. It's alignment entering the quantum field of response. You've now realigned your wealth field. You're no longer working harder to feel worthy. You've seen how energy, not effort, dictates your capacity to receive. So here's the question that naturally arises. If alignment creates ease in relationships, in income, in clarity, then what else starts to align without you forcing it? The answer is both subtle and explosive. Everything. When you start operating from quantum alignment, you unlock a phenomenon that traditional logic cannot explain. And yet, it is unmistakably real. It's called the synchronicity effect. Let's strip away the fluff. Synchronicity isn't magic. It's not superstition. It's not coincidence with a mystical twist. Synchronicity is what happens when your internal frequency matches the external reality you were always meant to live. When your signal is clean, life responds. Faster, sharper, with eerie precision. It looks like saying yes to a project just before the perfect collaborator reaches out. Having a random conversation that solves a problem you've been circling for weeks. Seeing the right message, right person, right answer without searching for it. This is not random. It's a natural result of alignment. Your energy is always communicating. The field is always listening. The delay between intention and manifestation is shortening, not through control but through coherence. Let's simplify. You stop working against life. You start partnering with it. You stop trying to bend the world to your will. You become sensitive enough to let the world orchestrate with you. And the more tuned you are, the more obvious this becomes. The synchronicity effect thrives on three core conditions. 1. You're anchored in presence. Synchronicity doesn't happen in the future. It shows up in the now. If you're living in mental loops trying to control timing, you miss it. But when you're present, open, tuned, grounded, your awareness sharpens. You see the signs. You catch the pattern. You follow the thread. 2. You're acting from alignment, not attachment. Synchronicity can't serve control. If you're obsessively chasing an outcome, you're too rigid to receive the unexpected. But when your actions are clean, when you move because it's true, not because it's desperate, doors open that logic never saw. And what arrives is better than what you were trying to force. 3. You're in motion. The universe works with movement, not inertia. Synchronicity is precise, but it requires participation. You don't need to know the entire plan, but you do need to be available. Alignment creates the signal. Movement gives it direction, and presence makes it recognizable. Let's clarify something. You are not manifesting reality. You are receiving the frequency match of your field. This is why trying to manifest from misalignment doesn't work. You can journal, visualize, and affirm all you want, But if your energy is anxious, the field mirrors that. When you're aligned, you don't need to chase outcomes. You become the version of you who attracts outcomes naturally. And life starts folding in around your truth. Let's make this real. Aligned people don't just get lucky. They move from truth. And truth collapses time. They're not guessing. They're following frequency. And that frequency organizes events around them with increasing speed and clarity. The synchronicity effect is not some fringe spiritual concept. It's the invisible infrastructure of aligned reality. It's available now, and you've already felt it. Every time something just clicked without effort. Every time the right moment arrived, perfectly timed. The more aligned you become, the less surprising that becomes. It stops being, wow, what are the odds? And starts being, of course this showed up now. My field is ready. This is the new paradigm. Not forcing life. Receiving from resonance. You stop proving. You start transmitting. You stop planning every step. You start tuning every moment. And life meets you there. Next we will break one of the deepest subconscious patterns that blocks this flow. The hidden glorification of struggle. Because no matter how aligned you are, if struggle still feels righteous, you'll unconsciously recreate it. You've now tasted the power of synchronicity. You've seen how life bends in your direction when you move from clarity, not control. But even in this flow, an old pattern can silently pull you back into friction. It's deep, cultural, and it's been celebrated for generations. It's the glorification of struggle. Let's expose this trap completely, because until it's gone, you'll keep anchoring to effort, even when alignment is available. Here's what you've been taught, often without words. If it doesn't hurt, it doesn't count. If it comes too easy, you didn't earn it. No pain, no gain. Success requires sacrifice. This conditioning doesn't just live in your mind. It lives in your nervous system, and over time it becomes a core belief. Struggle equals virtue. So even when flow starts to work, you doubt it. You question whether it's real. You sabotage the ease. You manufacture problems. You delay action until it feels harder, so you can justify it. This is not logic. It's loyalty. Loyalty to an identity that needs resistance to feel worthy. Let's go deeper. Struggle provides emotional payoffs. It gives you something to prove. It gives you drama to manage. It gives you a sense of righteousness. You suffer, then feel morally superior because you endured it. But what if that's not growth? What if that's just pattern? A loop that feels important but is actually outdated. Let's break it completely. Struggle feels noble because it matches old cultural and familial codes. But alignment feels unfamiliar because you were never rewarded for ease. So the work isn't to eliminate difficulty. It's to stop identifying with it. Here's what alignment does. Creates precision, not pressure. It invites depth without drama. It moves you into complexity without collapse. Yes, growth will stretch you. Yes, life will challenge you. But challenge is not equal to chaos. And struggle is not equal to strength. Here's how to know if you're addicted to struggle. You mistrust easy wins. You feel guilty when you rest. You delay progress until it feels hard enough. You equate pain with progress even when it's avoidable. This addiction is invisible because society reinforces it. The martyr is celebrated. The burnt-out achiever is glorified. The suffering artist is romanticized. But none of that is alignment. It's unresolved survival identity. So how do you let go of it? Step 1. Name the programming. Write it out. What messages did you receive about struggle, suffering, and worth? Be honest. No editing. Just clarity. Step 2. Interrupt the reflex. The next time ease presents itself, pause. Notice the part of you that resists it. And say out loud, I don't need to struggle to deserve this. Step 3. Choose aligned complexity over unnecessary chaos. There will be moments of challenge. But in alignment, they feel expansive, not destructive. You're not avoiding work. You're avoiding pointless resistance. There's a difference. Step 4. Begin redefining your success metrics. From, how hard did I push? To, how clear was my signal? From how much did I suffer? To how well did I stay tuned? This is the new currency. You are no longer paid in exhaustion. You are rewarded in resonance. Let that land. Because once you release the nobility of struggle, something wild happens. You stop creating messes to clean up. You stop adding friction to feel busy. You stop performing difficulty to feel important. And you begin living aligned with no apology. The truth is this: struggle is seductive, keeps you in the story, but alignment makes you leave the story behind. And that's terrifying. If your identity is rooted in overcoming, but you are not here to endlessly overcome. You're here to transmit without tension. So let it be simpler. Let it be cleaner. Let it be enough without pain. Next, we will explore the very essence of power, not as control or domination, but as coherence. Because real power in the quantum field is not about force. It's about staying so tuned that life has no choice but to reflect your signal back. Now that you've seen the trap of struggle, you've begun breaking your unconscious loyalty to effort as identity. You're finally starting to let success be simple, aligned, and true. So let's elevate the conversation completely. Let's talk about power. Because just like discipline, willpower, and struggle, your old understanding of power may be obsolete. You've likely been taught that power is about control, about asserting dominance, about getting others to comply, about staying ahead, staying in charge, staying unshaken. But what if real power, the kind that moves mountains without force, has nothing to do with control? What if true power is measured by your coherence? Let's define it clearly. Control is external. It's management, manipulation, and pressure. Coherence is internal. It's clarity, harmony, and energetic alignment. And here's the truth you were never told. The more coherent your field becomes, the less control you need. Because everything around you begins to self-organize in response to your frequency. This is the ultimate power shift. From command to calibration. From pressure to presence. From hierarchy to harmony. Let's go deeper. Control is born from fear. It says, if I don't manage everything, it will fall apart. If I don't dominate this moment, I'll lose ground. If I'm not in charge, I'll be irrelevant. But coherence says, I don't need to manage life. I need to match it. My energy is the lever. My presence is the strategy. The more I tune, the more life flows with me. Control creates resistance. Coherence creates magnetism. Control requires effort. Coherence creates inevitability. Because a coherent field broadcasts clarity. And clarity organizes reality. Let's bring this into your body. Coherence is not a theory. It's something you feel. It's when your breath, your emotions, your intention, and your awareness are unified. Not scattered. Not split. Not forcing. You walk into a room with coherence, and people notice before you speak. Not because you're louder, but because you're tuned. This is the energetic advantage most high-impact beings carry without ever labeling it. They're not manipulating. They're not performing. They're simply clear. And clarity creates gravitational pull. Now, here's what coherence is not. It's not being emotionless. It's not staying calm out of fear of conflict. It's not suppressing chaos to appear together. Coherence is not rigidity. It's resonance. It means your inner world is integrated, even when the outer world is wild. It means your choices align with your truth, even when nothing around you agrees. It means your boundaries aren't rules, they're signals. And those signals are strong enough to hold their shape without violence. This is the new power. The power that doesn't need to shout. The power that doesn't need to defend. The power that doesn't rely on hierarchy to exist. Coherence isn't passive. It's activating. It's what happens when your entire system is in agreement with itself. No more inner battles. No more pretending. No more split intentions. You want it. You trust it. You move toward it. And the field responds quickly, clearly, completely. Let's ground this. Ask yourself, where am I still using control to mask fear? Where am I over-explaining to gain permission? Where am I creating resistance by forcing clarity? Then ask, what would this moment feel like if I chose coherence instead? What do I know to be true that doesn't need defense? What is the most harmonized action available now? Let the answers come. Then let your system adjust. This isn't just about feeling better. It's about unlocking quantum effectiveness. Because the coherent version of you gets more done without the fight, communicates more clearly with fewer words, commands more respect with zero posturing. That's not charisma, that's coherence. And coherence builds over time. The more you choose alignment over control, the stronger your signal becomes. And the less you'll find yourself chasing, defending, or managing anything. You're not here to control the world. You're here to be undeniably aligned so the world knows exactly how to respond. Next, we explore a paradigm-shifting idea. What if time itself isn't fixed? What if frequency bends the clock? You're about to discover how aligned energy reorganizes time itself, and why "I don't have time" is no longer a valid excuse. You now understand power as coherence, not control. You've seen that the most effective force in the world is a tuned field, not a tightened fist. So what happens when you bring that same coherence to your relationship with time? Everything changes. Because here's the truth almost nobody sees clearly. Time is not as rigid as you think. It's not just a ticking clock. It's a perception field influenced by your frequency. And once you're aligned, time bends. You experience it differently. You use it differently. And most shockingly, you need less of it to create more. Let's unpack this fully. You were trained to believe that time is fixed, that there are never enough hours, that productivity is about cramming more into the same day, that success belongs to those who manage time best. But in alignment, you don't manage time. You collapse it, because time is not the ruler. Your energy is. When you're misaligned, time becomes your enemy. You rush, you delay, you procrastinate, you multitask, you drown in noise. But when you're aligned, time becomes your ally. You move in flow. You act in right timing. You say no with ease. You say yes with clarity. And what used to take hours now takes minutes because you're no longer leaking energy. This is not motivational fluff. This is energetic physics. Alignment creates presence. Presence sharpens focus. Focused energy amplifies results. Amplified results require less time. So ask yourself, what if I didn't need more hours? What if I needed less resistance? What if time scarcity is just a symptom of energetic misalignment? Let's make this practical. Here's how aligned beings experience time differently. 1. Time stretches when you're fully present. Ever notice how 1 hour in flow feels like an entire day of progress? That's not imagination. That's frequency altering your perception and output. When you stop splitting your energy, time becomes generous. 2. Time contracts when you're disconnected. Distraction isn't just inefficient, it speeds up perceived time. You scroll, stress, stall, and suddenly the day is gone. Not because time moved faster, but because you weren't fully in it. 3. The right action collapses time windows. When you're aligned, 1 email can replace 12 follow-ups. 1 decision can resolve weeks of hesitation. 1 conversation can open doors that months of strategy couldn't touch. This is time distortion through alignment, and it's real. The question isn't, how do I manage time better? The question is, how aligned is my frequency before I act? Because the quality of your alignment determines the efficiency of your output. So here's the shift. Stop tracking time. Start tracking resonance. Before every task, ask, is this in alignment with what I'm truly meant to create today? Does this action arise from clarity or pressure? Am I entering this moment from coherence or from obligation? The more your actions are sourced from alignment, the less time you need. And the more time opens itself to you. Let's destroy one more myth. I don't have time. No, you don't have coherence. Because when your signal is clean, time organizes around you. You find space. Opportunities open. Life adjusts to match your tuned energy. You don't need more hours. You need higher resonance. Let's be even clearer. Multitasking is a trauma response. Busyness is not productivity. Urgency is not importance. Calendar chaos is not inevitable. Time is not fixed. It is fluid when your energy is fluent. So restructure your life from alignment first. Before you book, schedule, or say yes, check the signal. If it's not aligned, delay it, delegate it, or delete it. That's how aligned time is created. Not by discipline, by design through frequency. You're not here to race the clock. You're here to make time expand for your truth. Next, we will move into how aligned action becomes natural, and procrastination disappears without needing to push through. Aligned energy doesn't hesitate. It simply acts when the moment is real. You now understand that time bends when alignment leads. You've seen how coherence allows you to stretch presence, collapse hesitation, and amplify impact. So the next natural question is this. If you're no longer running on pressure, what drives your action? If you're not forcing, pushing, or chasing, how do things get done? The answer is simpler than you expect. Aligned action happens when waiting becomes irrelevant. Not because you grind through resistance, but because there's nothing left to resist. Procrastination vanishes not through discipline, but through clarity. Let's say this plainly. You've never truly procrastinated on something aligned. What you've delayed is usually something you didn't believe in, you weren't energetically available for. You were doing from obligation, not resonance. Procrastination is not laziness. It's your system telling you, this isn't right. But most people don't listen, so they try to force themselves forward with shame, stress, and punishment. That's the discipline model again, trying to override what your energy already knows. But in alignment, action arises from rightness, not reaction. You don't need tricks to get motivated. You don't need timers or reward loops. You simply move when the field opens. Let's unpack how aligned action works. 1. Aligned action is sourced, not forced. When your energy is clean, ideas land fully. You know when to act and how. You don't hesitate because the pull is real. You're not pushing forward. You're responding to the signal. 2. Aligned action is precise. You don't waste time doing 19 things that might work. You say yes to the one that is unmistakably right. This means less volume but infinitely more potency. 3. Aligned action carries no aftercost. You're not depleted when you act. You're expanded. You're charged. Because you're not leaking energy trying to override your body's no. Let's rewire something deeply ingrained. You've been taught that waiting to feel ready is weakness. That hesitation means you're failing. But the truth is, misaligned action is far more expensive than conscious waiting. In alignment, you stop rushing. You stop delaying. You move when it's time and not a second before or after. It's not about being fast. It's about being exact. Ask yourself right now, what actions have I been delaying and why? Are they truly aligned? Or are they ego-driven? If I dropped the need to force it, what would still feel true? This is your clarity field speaking. Aligned action comes when your nervous system feels safe, your vision feels clear, your energy is available. When those three align, movement is automatic. And if any of them are off, that doesn't mean you need more discipline. It means you need more realignment. Now let's address a common fear. But if I don't push myself, I'll never do anything. That's the control model talking. It's been useful in the past, but it's no longer needed here. Because aligned action builds momentum of its own. One aligned move creates energetic gravity. That gravity pulls in clarity, creativity, and results. Suddenly, you're not thinking about productivity. You're just in motion, naturally, cleanly, clearly. Let's ground this with practice. Before any action, ask, does this feel open in my body? Am I doing this to match my frequency or to escape discomfort? Is the field calling this into motion? Or am I just performing urgency? Let your system answer, and then choose. If it's aligned, act immediately. If it's not, pause without guilt. Let the right timing reveal itself. Because when the moment is real, you won't need to be convinced. You'll feel the click, and you'll move. not from pressure but from power. Aligned action is the natural result of integrity with your own field. And once you trust it, your output becomes effortless, effective, and expansive. Next, we address a major leak in your aligned field. What you say yes to out of habit. What you continue doing out of guilt. What drains you without return. You're about to run your first energy audit and delete everything your system is done carrying. Aligned action only works when your field is clean. And that means something you may not want to hear. You need to stop doing things that don't belong in your system anymore. Not slow them down. Not balance them better. Stop. Because no amount of aligned rituals, clarity work, or flow states can compensate for one simple truth. If your energy is leaking, your alignment is bleeding. The leak may not always be obvious. It might be a recurring meeting you hate but tolerate, a client you've outgrown, a project you're pretending to be excited about, a commitment you made when your energy was in a totally different state. These things carry a cost. Not just time but frequency. Every yes given from guilt. Every task done from obligation. Every minute spent pretending. Fractures your coherence. So we clear it. This is your energy audit. And no, this isn't about productivity. It's about sovereignty. You've evolved. But has your calendar? Has your environment? Has your agreement field? Alignment can't exist in a system still loyal to old energy. So here's how we begin. Step 1. Inventory your obligations. Look at every commitment, relationship, and output channel you've agreed to. List it all. No filter. No assumptions. Ask, is this aligned with who I am now, not who I was when I agreed to it? Does this task, person, or project give back to my field or only take from it? If I could walk away with zero consequence, would I? Write it down. Don't negotiate with yourself. Clarity first. Action second. Step 2. Categorize your list. Now label each item. Alive. It expands you. Neutral. It doesn't charge or drain. Dead. It depletes, distracts, or dulls you. You're not being selfish. You're being energetically honest. And you need honesty if you want coherence. Step 3. Delete or redefine the dead. This is where the nervous system might protest. What if people get upset? What if you break agreements? What if things fall apart? Ask yourself, are you protecting a structure or your signal? Are you living from alignment or approval? You cannot carry both. One will collapse the other. If something must remain, redefine it. Shift the boundaries. Clarify the scope. Restructure how it lives in your field. But most importantly, stop leaking. Because what you tolerate in misalignment multiplies in impact. Step 4. Reaffirm your aligned yes. Now return to what's alive. These are your amplifiers. Your energy goes here now. Feed them. Expand them. Let them grow. This is how alignment scales. Not through more effort, but through focused, clean energy. Here's the final shift. You no longer need to be the manager of everything. You are the curator of your field. You don't owe your energy to the past. You owe it to your current clarity. Let that be the new standard. Because alignment is not just about what you do. It's about what you stop doing. What you unhook from. What you release without apology. This is the detox your field has been waiting for. And it clears the path for your next evolution. Confidence without performance. Next, we uncover how to eliminate imposter syndrome forever. Not by pretending to feel worthy, but by tuning so deeply into truth that confidence becomes your natural state. You've now cut the energetic cords to obligations that no longer serve. You've cleared the clutter. You've released the distractions. So what happens next? You make space for the most powerful state of being to enter your field. A frequency that renders doubt irrelevant. One that dissolves hesitation, overthinking, comparison, and internal sabotage. It's not arrogance. It's not self-talk. It's not manufactured bravado. It's quantum confidence, and once you taste it, you'll never need approval again. Let's define it clearly. Quantum confidence is not thinking you're good enough. It's knowing because your alignment leaves no room for debate. You're not convincing yourself you belong. You're living as someone who no longer negotiates their place. Here's what most people don't realize. Imposter syndrome is a signal of misalignment, not of broken self-esteem. It arises when you're performing instead of expressing. You're in rooms that aren't a vibrational match. You're presenting a version of yourself that your energy has already outgrown. You feel like a fraud because part of you knows this isn't your truest configuration. So what do people usually do? They try to prove. They posture. They over-deliver. They flood their nervous system with noise. But none of that heals the gap. Because the gap isn't intellectual. It's energetic. Let's break this fully. You don't build confidence by stacking accomplishments. You build it by removing distortion. Because the clearer your signal, the less doubt exists. There's no debate in resonance. There's just recognition. You know what's true. You speak from what's real. You act from what's aligned. And in that space, imposter syndrome dies not because you fixed it, but because you no longer matched it. Let's walk through what this looks like in practice. 1. You stop waiting to feel ready. You move when your field says yes, not when your mind feels safe. Confidence is no longer a prerequisite for action. It's the result of aligned action, taken without fear as the lead. 2. You speak with energetic authority. Not louder, not bolder, but from truth. Your words carry weight because they are rooted in coherence, not performance. You no longer need scripts, spin, or image. Your presence is the message. 3. You stop seeking external validation. You're not trying to be accepted anymore. You're transmitting your reality and letting resonance attract those who are ready. This is where your work, your voice, your art, your leadership becomes undeniable. Not perfect, not polished. Undeniable because it's clean. 4. You move through doubt faster. Doubt doesn't vanish forever. But in this state, you don't live there. You feel it, check your signal, and adjust quickly. You don't spiral. You realign. Because you know your field is more trustworthy than your fear. Here's the shift you must integrate. You don't need to become more confident. You need to become more aligned. And in that alignment, confidence becomes the natural default. The expression of clarity. The effect, not the cause. Ask yourself now, where am I still performing who I think I need to be? What parts of me are still chasing proof instead of standing in presence? Where do I feel the most confident? And is it because I'm finally being honest there? Let the answers recalibrate you. You've never been lacking confidence. You've just been leaking it through misaligned expression. Now bring it back through truth, through clarity, through energetic congruence. Because quantum confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't hustle. It doesn't explain. It just is. And it carries a frequency that ends doubt before it begins. Next, we'll prepare you for something even deeper. What happens when the external world begins to collapse around you, not as punishment but as an upgrade? Because when you live aligned long enough, life removes what no longer matches. Even when you're not ready. You've now activated quantum confidence by aligning so clearly with who you are that doubt no longer fits in your field. But there's one more dimension of alignment most don't expect. And it's this: sometimes, life aligns you by dismantling everything that isn't true. Not as punishment, not as chaos, but as recalibration. This is what we call the collapse of old structures. Here's what you need to know. When your frequency rises, your external world must adjust. That means relationships shift, jobs end, business models break, plans fail, timelines dissolve, structures that once held your life together fall apart. And while your ego may panic, your aligned self knows, this is the upgrade. Let's make it real. You're no longer the version of you that built your current world. So it makes sense that the world begins to reconfigure around your new signal. But if you don't understand what's happening, it's easy to misinterpret it as failure. You might say, why is this falling apart when I'm doing everything right? Why did this opportunity ghost me right after I got clear? Why is life removing the very things I thought I needed? Because alignment doesn't support old scaffolding. It supports truth. And the collapse is a sacred cleanup. Here's what usually happens. As your alignment sharpens, life tests whether you'll stay in coherence or regress into comfort. That looks like the job offer falling through at the last minute, the safe path suddenly becoming unbearable, the mentor, client, or collaborator pulling away. But what's really happening? Life is saying, that's not for you anymore. Don't cling. Stay tuned. Let's walk through how to meet these moments with power. 1. Don't resist the dismantling. The more you try to salvage what's misaligned, the more suffering you create. Release the illusion that breakdown means failure. It means frequency mismatch. Let it fall. 2. Return to signal, not strategy. In times of collapse, your mind will crave control. Don't feed it. Instead, ask, what's still true inside me? Where is the cleanest yes right now? If I weren't afraid, what would I already let go of? These questions recenter your field. 3. Recognize when life is accelerating you, not punishing you. Sometimes the collapse clears space for something your nervous system wasn't ready to claim. It might feel like loss, but it's often release, a rapid reset, a quantum reroute. 4. Stay connected to aligned movement. Even in chaos, coherence is possible. Keep your rituals. Protect your signal. Anchor your clarity. When the external world is unstable, your field becomes your home. Let's name a deeper truth. You can't control how long the collapse lasts, but you can control how you meet it. You can meet it in fear or in alignment. You can meet it in resistance or in trust. And when you choose trust, collapse becomes rebirth. What dies is the version of you that needed safety more than truth. And what remains is the version of you that can finally live fully aligned, without hiding behind outdated scaffolding. This is not metaphorical. It's energetic reality. Alignment doesn't just bring good feelings. It brings truth. And truth has consequences. Sometimes it builds. Sometimes it burns. But in either case, it clears the path. So ask yourself now, what is currently collapsing in my life? And what might it be making space for? Where am I still trying to hold up something that wants to fall? What clarity is being revealed through this shakeup? Let the answers land without needing resolution. Your clarity is enough. This isn't about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about becoming the signal that doesn't get shaken, no matter what falls around it. Next, we'll anchor this deeper by installing the voice you'll need most through every shift ahead. The one that never wavers. The one inside you. You're about to meet and amplify your inner oracle. You've just witnessed what happens when life begins to collapse the old. Not because something's wrong, but because something deeper is finally ready to emerge. But when the external world shifts rapidly, one truth becomes absolutely non-negotiable. You must stop outsourcing clarity. Because without an internal source of truth, you will keep reaching. Keep asking. Keep spinning in advice, data, methods, noise. What you need is not more opinions. What you need is a clean signal from within. This is where your inner oracle comes online. Let's name it for what it really is. Not a metaphor. Not your gut feeling. Not a passing intuition. Your inner oracle is a non-negotiable energetic intelligence. It's the sovereign voice within you that already knows. The one that doesn't stutter, doesn't overanalyze, doesn't flinch when the external contradicts it. It's always been there. But for most people, it's been buried under layers of noise, compliance, and distortion. Let's start peeling that back. Why you lost touch with it in the first place. You were trained to seek outside yourself. Teachers told you the rules. Experts told you what mattered. Systems told you who you had to be. And over time, you stopped listening to your own frequency. You started filtering your knowing through approval, fear, logic, and performance. Now you're here. You've dropped struggle. You've cleared the noise. And your field is finally ready for reconnection. How to activate the inner oracle. Step 1 is simple, but sacred. Choose it. That means you decide fully that your inner clarity is more important than external approval. You no longer argue with your knowing. You stop outsourcing decisions. You stop bypassing your own field to avoid discomfort. From this point forward, your first signal isn't, what do they think? It's, what does my field say? Feel that. Step 2. Differentiate between noise and signal. The oracle doesn't shout. It doesn't panic. It doesn't plead. It speaks in stillness, resonance, yes and no's that are felt, not explained. The voice of fear feels urgent. The voice of the oracle feels clean. Even when it challenges you, it brings clarity, not contraction. If you feel panic, it's not the oracle. If you feel guilt, it's not the oracle. If you feel grounded truth, even if it's inconvenient, now you're listening. Step 3. Stop overriding it. Every time you feel a knowing and ignore it, you dilute your trust. Every time you choose comfort over clarity, the signal weakens. But every time you follow it, even in small ways, it grows louder, clearer, stronger. You are training your system to follow frequency over fear. That's embodiment. How the inner oracle changes everything. Let's be clear, this is not about never feeling doubt again. It's about moving with certainty in the presence of doubt. Because when the oracle speaks, your life doesn't just get easier. It gets accurate. You stop polling everyone for advice, Googling your intuition away, delaying decisions out of fear of getting it wrong. You start moving at the speed of knowing, acting in perfect timing, making aligned decisions that collapse confusion instantly. You are no longer driven by momentum. You're driven by message, the one inside you. Now ask yourself, where have I ignored my inner oracle in the past? What decisions would I make right now if I trusted it completely? What part of me still believes someone else knows better? Let those questions recalibrate you. Because the oracle cannot be forced, but it can be installed. Through practice, through presence, through bold, unflinching loyalty to your truth. You are not here to keep second-guessing your clarity. You are here to become the most accurate instrument of aligned action on this planet. And that starts now. Next, we'll reveal what happens when alignment doesn't just guide your life, but begins healing what even years of therapy couldn't fully reach. You're about to see why quantum alignment is not just a performance shift. It's a healing technology. You've now tuned into the inner oracle, the clearest, most precise signal you'll ever carry. And that inner signal doesn't just create action. It also creates healing. Let's be honest about something most transformation paths won't say out loud. You can go to therapy for years. You can analyze your childhood. You can relive every wound. And still feel stuck in the same cycles. Still recreate the same sabotage. Still carry pain your mind has already processed. Why? Because mental understanding is not the same as energetic resolution. And that's the missing link. This is why quantum alignment heals what traditional methods miss. Let's break it down. 1. The nervous system doesn't speak English. It speaks energy. You can name your trauma all day long. But if your field is still resonating with abandonment, chaos, unworthiness, you'll recreate it, even if you know better. Alignment doesn't just explain pain. It reorganizes your frequency so the pain no longer has a place to live. You're not just aware of your wounds. You're no longer vibrating at their level. That's transformation. 2. Alignment bypasses the loop of fixing. Traditional healing often teaches you that you're broken, that healing is a lifelong identity. But alignment doesn't fix you. It reveals the version of you that was never wounded to begin with. When you align with your most truthful frequency, the wounds don't disappear, they dissolve. Because they're no longer necessary for your identity. You don't need them to make sense of your past. You don't need them to feel real. You've outgrown them. 3. Alignment is somatic, not just cognitive. Your body is the antenna. And when your field becomes coherent, your body begins releasing stuck trauma on its own. Without needing to relive it. Without talking it to death. You shake. You cry. You exhale what you didn't know was being held. That's not therapy. That's vibrational release. And it's real. 4. Alignment rewires time. When you shift frequency, you don't just change now. You change the entire timeline of who you are. Old triggers no longer land. Old identities no longer fit. You don't have to heal 30 years of patterning, because you're no longer matching the version of you who built them. Alignment collapses decades of emotional processing into a single moment of embodied clarity. That's not magic. That's how energy works. Let's ground this in your system. You don't need to become a healing project. You are not a never-ending loop of shadow work. You are a field tuning itself back to truth. And in truth, trauma cannot survive. It only exists in distortion. So ask yourself, what am I still trying to fix that alignment could simply dissolve? Where am I identifying with healing instead of living? What parts of me are ready to stop cycling and start ascending? You do not need to relive your past to release it. You only need to stop matching it. Let your alignment do the work your logic could never complete. Because the body remembers, but so does your higher field. And the field knows how to heal. Your job now is to stay in alignment long enough for your nervous system to believe you. Once that happens, healing becomes a side effect, not a goal. Next, we'll walk into one of the most radical stages of this journey. Letting go of identity itself. Because even your healed identity is limited. And you're about to become limitless. You've just realized that healing isn't about fixing. It's about frequency. And you've felt what happens when your alignment reorders reality, without reliving the past. But there's one final attachment point that still tries to pull you backward, even as your field accelerates. Identity. It's subtle, it's sticky, and it's seductive. Because even after the pain dissolves, the persona it helped you build often stays. You may no longer feel abandoned, but still identify as the one who overcame abandonment. You may no longer feel unworthy, but still operate from the high achiever who proved herself. You may even be fully in flow, but subtly still playing the role of the one who teaches flow. This is the trap. Your old story can become your new brand. Your trauma can become your ego's trophy. And your growth becomes a performance to maintain, even if it's no longer real. But alignment demands something higher. It asks you to let go of identity altogether. Not to become nothing, but to become free. Let's be clear. Identity is not who you are. It's who you think you are when you forget your frequency. And all identity, yes, even the spiritual ones, have limits. Because identities have edges, boundaries, attachments, definitions. They say, I'm this kind of person. I don't do things like that. I belong in this category. I've already figured myself out. And the moment you say those words, you've stepped into a box. Even if it's a beautiful one. Even if it once saved you. Even if it once felt true. Alignment evolves. And that means your truth will too. Let's reframe this. You are not the identity. You are the signal beneath it. You are not the persona. You are the presence. So what does it look like to let the identity die? 1. You stop defending your past. Even the story of your growth doesn't need to be repeated. You don't need to explain how far you've come. You don't need to keep being the one who overcame. You just live as who you are now without proof. 2. You stop needing consistency. Most people stay stuck in patterns not because they're afraid to grow, but because they're afraid to contradict their old image. Let go. You're allowed to outgrow what you believed yesterday. You're allowed to become someone new by noon. You're allowed to be a paradox and still be real. 3. You stop building a brand around your wounds. This one is critical. You are not here to monetize your pain. You are here to transmit your truth. And sometimes that truth is, I no longer resonate with who I was when I built this. Let that be enough to walk away. Now, some part of your nervous system might resist this, because identity feels like safety. It gives you a role, pattern, a name. But alignment isn't interested in roles. It's interested in resonance. And the more attached you are to being someone, the harder it becomes to become everything. This is not about losing yourself. It's about returning to the signal that was never meant to be confined. Let's make it real. Ask yourself, what identities am I still performing, even subtly? What would I stop doing today if I didn't need to be consistent? Who would I be if I let go of every label, even the ones I earned? Let those answers burn away the surface. What's left is you. Raw, real, uncontainable. That's freedom. And from that freedom, something new begins to emerge. A new way of living. Not as a person pushing through plans, but as a channel transmitting intelligence. Next, we activate that shift. You are no longer a worker. You are about to become a channel for genius. You've now released the limitations of identity. You're no longer clinging to roles, labels, or the pressure to stay consistent. You've created space. Now let's fill it. Not with hustle, not with plans, but with intelligence that flows through you. This is the new success paradigm. You are not a worker. You are not a producer. You are not a task machine. You are a channel. Let's define that clearly. To be a channel is to live in consistent alignment with a frequency that transcends your personality. You no longer think your way to breakthroughs. You receive them. You transmit them. You become the instrument, not the source. And in this space, genius happens without grind. Here's what the old model of success looked like. Do more. Plan harder. Manage everything. Be seen as high-performing. But this model runs on depletion. It's reactive. It's exhausting. And it treats you like a machine. Now compare that to being a channel. You move when the field moves. You speak from truth, not tactics. You create from resonance, not pressure. You act in precision, not overwhelm. And the result? Your output increases. Your stress vanishes. Your work becomes alive. And you stop doing success, you start beaming it. Let's take this further. 1. A channel doesn't start with the goal. In the old paradigm, you set a goal, make a plan, and chase it. In the new paradigm, you align your field and let the result flow from there. You're not asking, what should I build? You're asking, what is ready to come through me now? You're not inventing. You're listening. 2. A channel doesn't chase productivity. You stop measuring your day in tasks. You measure it in truth. Did you speak what wanted to be spoken? Did you move when the moment asked for it? Did you allow the intelligence to express through you? That's how your new scoreboard works. And ironically, you become more effective than ever because you're not forcing anything. You're following everything real. 3. A channel doesn't run out of energy. You're no longer the generator. You're the conductor. And when you're tuned, energy flows through, not from you. This creates sustained clarity, creativity, and momentum without burnout. You're not trying to hold it all together. You're letting the current move. This is the end of burnout, because your nervous system isn't the fuel source. The field is. Let's clarify something critical. Being a channel does not mean you sit around waiting for magic to strike. It means you become available to receive. That availability is created through ritual, alignment, clarity, trust. You build the conditions. The field supplies the genius. This is how aligned businesses are born. How revolutionary art is made. How messages change the world. Not from effort, but from resonant receivership. So what blocks this? Over-planning. Over-identification with output. Needing every step to make logical sense. Being addicted to doing it right instead of being real. Let it go. Instead, create space. This doesn't mean quit your job. It means let your channel lead your job. Let your message lead your brand. Let your field lead your strategy. Let your frequency lead your life. You are not here to grind. You are here to transmit. Now ask yourself, where am I still working when I could be channeling? What ideas are trying to come through me, but I've been too busy to hear? What's the message I would give the world if I stopped filtering it through fear? This is the beginning of your new success story. Not built, not planned, received. You are the conduit. Let it flow through. Next, we'll tune your decision-making to match this new paradigm. Because once you live as a channel, you don't weigh pros and cons, and you'll never second-guess again. You've stepped into your genius not as a worker, but as a channel. Now things come through you, not from you. You've stopped pushing. You've started receiving. But even in this flow, there's one place many still stumble. Decision-making. Because even when aligned, the old mind can creep in. You feel a strong pull to act. But then comes the loop. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm moving too fast? What if this ruins everything? And suddenly, flow gets stalled by fear. Clarity gets hijacked by logic. The channel gets static. So now you're going to rewire that completely. You're going to learn quantum decision-making, the energetic art of making choices instantly, cleanly, and completely. Let's start with the most critical truth. The field knows faster than the mind. Before your brain evaluates a choice, your field has already received the answer. You felt this. That moment of yes in your gut. That instant contraction in your chest. That subtle clarity that appeared before the analysis began. That was the decision. Everything after that was just delay. In quantum decision-making, we don't weigh the options. We don't debate. We don't stall in cycles of logic. We recognize what the field already said and we act from it. Let's unpack this deeper. 1. Every real decision is already made. The moment you're in coherence, choices are simple. There's resonance or there isn't. That's the entire compass. If you can't hear the yes or no, it's not because the answer is unclear. It's because your signal is cluttered. So the work isn't to think harder. The work is to tune sharper. 2. The longer you delay, the more noise enters. Your initial knowing is clean. But when you delay, it gets buried. You invite doubt. You invite ego. You invite data to override direction. And you begin second-guessing a choice that was already true. Quantum decision-makers don't need endless information. They need energetic permission. And once received, they move. 3. Alignment removes the fear of mistakes. Fear of making the wrong choice is based on one thing: identity. When you believe a choice defines you, you hesitate. When you know you're the field, not the role, you become unshakable. Because even if an outcome shifts, your signal stays clean. You didn't act from ego. You acted from resonance. And that's never wrong. So how do you use this in real life? Step 1. Feel the field first. Before you let the mind analyze, get quiet. Feel what your system already knows. Is there a yes? Is there a no? Is there neutrality? Don't try to justify. Just notice. Step 2. Ask the question directly. What is the aligned move right now? Then wait. Let the field speak. You may feel expansion, tightness, certainty, discomfort. Follow the clearest signal, not the loudest fear. Step 3. Move before your mind interrupts. When the clarity lands, act. Make the call. Send the message. Book the flight. Say no. Immediate, clean, embodied motion. What about complex decisions? Even the biggest choices reduce down to energy. You don't need to forecast every outcome. You need to ask, does this move increase my coherence or fracture it? Because the result doesn't matter more than the signal. And if the signal is clean, the path will always self-correct. That's the quantum edge. Now, the common objections. But what if I make a mistake? You will. You're human. But your identity isn't at stake. And mistakes made from alignment correct faster than those made from fear. But I don't trust my intuition yet. Then practice. Start with small choices. What do I eat today? Who do I reply to? What do I cancel? Build the muscle. The oracle will speak louder the more you honor it. Ask yourself, where have I been looping on a decision I already know the answer to? What am I pretending to be confused about because the truth feels inconvenient? What would happen if I acted from signal right now, no matter what? Let those answers move you. Because decision fatigue ends the moment you decide your field is the authority. No more guessing. No more delay. No more noise. Next, we step into the ultimate clarity amplifier. Energetic boundaries. Not forced. Not rehearsed. But felt instantly and enforced effortlessly. You've now entered the world of instant clarity. Your choices are no longer filtered through doubt. They're sourced directly from resonance. But even in this state, something new must be protected. Your field. Because the more aligned you become, the more invitations will come. Opportunities. Requests. People who just need a second. Projects that only you can do. And if your boundaries aren't aligned with your current frequency, you'll start leaking again. But here's the key. Boundaries in the old paradigm were about protection. In the quantum paradigm, boundaries are about precision. You're not blocking people out. You're maintaining coherence. You're not defending your energy. You're curating your access. Let's destroy the myth. You don't need to be mean to say no. You don't need to explain your preferences. You don't need to feel guilty for choosing yourself. Because alignment has no guilt, only truth. Here's what energetic boundaries really are. They are the natural byproduct of a tuned system. You know what's right, you know what's not, and your body signals it instantly. Yes, no, later, never. There's no drama, no spiral, no second guessing. Just a field that knows and holds its line. What makes energetic boundaries so powerful? 1. They don't require conflict. You don't have to fight to enforce them. Your clarity speaks louder than words. People feel it. You say less, but it lands more. 2. They don't collapse under pressure. When your boundary is mental, it can be manipulated. When your boundary is energetic, it's immovable. It's not a defense. It's a frequency that says, this doesn't enter my field. That's the end of discussion. 3. They create space for real yes. Every no that's in alignment makes room for a yes that's fully alive. You stop overcommitting. You stop resenting. You stop diluting your time, energy, and capacity. You start expanding. So how do you activate this? Step 1. Tune your truth. You can't hold boundaries around things you're still confused about. So ask, what do I actually have energy for today? What am I doing out of guilt, not resonance? Where am I abandoning clarity to keep the peace? Feel your real answers. Step 2. Honor the body signal. If your system contracts, it's a no. If it expands, it's a yes. That's it. No more rationalizing. No more being nice. No more tolerating to be polite. Step 3. Communicate cleanly. You don't need scripts. You need truth. Try these. That doesn't feel aligned for me right now. Thanks for thinking of me. This is a no for now. My energy's committed elsewhere. No apology. No story. Just frequency-based communication. And if they don't understand, that's proof the boundary was needed. Let's flip the fear. You think saying no risks rejection. But saying yes to what drains you is self-rejection. And every time you betray your yes to protect someone else's comfort, you disconnect from your field. That's not service. That's self-abandonment. Stop calling it kindness. Ask yourself, what am I still tolerating that I know doesn't match me anymore? What conversations am I avoiding because I don't want to seem selfish? What parts of my life feel bloated with shoulds I no longer believe in? Let your answers form a boundary blueprint. Your field is sacred. Your signal is rare. Protect it. Next, we'll unpack the paradox that unlocks your expansion. Doing less, becoming more. Because when your energy is aligned, less action produces more impact every time. You've just created the most powerful boundary of all, not from fear, but from field integrity. You're no longer available for what drains you. You've stepped into energetic clarity. And now something extraordinary begins to happen. You start doing less. And yet you become more magnetic, more precise, more potent, more impactful. This isn't philosophy, it's physics. When your energy field is clean, your impact multiplies even as your output drops. Let's dismantle the last productivity lie. You were taught that success scales with effort, that the more you do, the more value you create, that your worth is measured by how full your calendar is. That model belongs to the machine age. But you're not a machine. You're a signal. You're a field. You're a node of intelligence inside a quantum web. And in that space, effort is not the currency. Alignment is. So here's the paradox. When you do less from force, your field does more through resonance. Let's break this into 3 core shifts. 1. From activity to potency. Most people do 10 things to get 1 result. They throw spaghetti at the wall. They check 42 boxes. They live in a cycle of constant motion but little actual movement. When you're aligned, it flips. You do 1 thing and it creates 10 ripples. Because the action was sourced from clarity. It was precise. It was timed. It landed. Potency isn't about volume. It's about vibration. 2. From time spent to signal sent. The old system rewards hours. The aligned field rewards truth. This means you could spend 15 minutes on one aligned action and see a week's worth of results. Because your signal was clean. You weren't splitting energy. You were transmitting. Time bends to frequency. The higher your alignment, the less time you need. 3. From performance to presence. When you're still trying to prove, you overextend. You say yes too often. You jump at every opportunity. You try to be everywhere at once. But when you let go of proving, presence expands. And presence does the work for you. You walk into a room and shift it. You post once and it ripples for weeks. You offer less, but it lands more deeply. You've stopped selling energy. You've started being energy. Now, what keeps people stuck? The fear that doing less means becoming irrelevant. But irrelevance only happens when you're forgettable, and that's never caused by low volume. It's caused by low frequency. Aligned presence is unforgettable. Because it's real. It resonates. It sticks in people's fields like a tuning fork. So here's what you do now. Audit your output. Ask yourself, what am I still doing out of habit, not alignment? Where am I creating volume instead of value? What would I release if I trusted that less effort equals more impact? Let those questions refine you. Then take action. Cut your task list in half. Say no to busy work. Commit to precision. Make space for silence. You'll start seeing a new pattern emerge. Clarity rises. Pressure drops. Creativity returns. Impact compounds. This is where you leave the grind behind. Not just physically, but energetically. This is where expansion stops being painful and starts being automatic. You're not working harder. You're working clearer. And that's the shift. Next, we'll zoom out to the ripple effect. Because as your field expands and your effort contracts, something stunning becomes inevitable. Your legacy begins to write itself. You've stepped into aligned effortlessness. You've dropped the noise. You've chosen potency over volume. And now something profound begins to occur. Your life begins leaving a ripple whether you try or not. Not because you planned it. Not because you branded it. But because alignment is contagious. This is the essence of quantum legacy. Most people think legacy is about big achievements. Books, empires, wealth, leaving your name behind. But quantum legacy has nothing to do with monuments, and everything to do with frequency memory. It's not what you do. It's the field you leave behind. Your impact is measured not by how many people know your name, but by how many lives shifted because you lived aligned. Let that land. Your presence alters reality. And when your presence is clean, whole, resonant, it rewires every field it touches. That's legacy. Let's go deeper. 1. Quantum legacy is not built, it's transmitted. You don't have to craft it. You have to live it. Every time you choose truth over conformity. Every time you radiate clarity instead of confusion. Every time you act from inner knowing and others feel it. You leave an energetic imprint. That imprint stays. It spreads. It multiplies. Not through effort. Through resonance. 2. Quantum legacy is not someday, it's now. You're not waiting for your moment. You're not trying to earn your relevance. You're already impacting. The conversation you had this morning. The post you almost deleted, but shared anyway. The boundary you finally held with love. Each one changes the trajectory of a field, and that field changes others. That's how alignment ripples. 3. Quantum legacy is subtle but irreversible. You may never know how deeply you shifted someone. You may never see the full effect, but it's real. Energy doesn't forget clarity. A single sentence spoken from truth can echo for decades. A moment of coherence can plant seeds that blossom years later. This is not poetic. This is physics. Let's make this tangible. Ask yourself, what frequency do I leave behind in rooms I walk through? What do people feel more able to do because I existed? Am I living in a way that makes alignment seem normal? If your answers feel soft, good. Quantum legacy isn't loud. It's invisible and inescapable. You don't need followers. You need frequency. You don't need scale. You need signal clarity. And here's the most beautiful truth of all. You don't have to try to build legacy. You only have to stay aligned. Because the life lived in full coherence automatically shifts the lives it touches. It gives people permission. It upgrades systems without attacking them. It opens doors that logic would never find. You're not remembered for what you said. You're remembered for what people became around you. That's the field doing its work. That's the power of frequency leadership. Now ask yourself, what outdated idea of success or legacy am I ready to release? What if the only goal was to live so aligned, the world shifted without me forcing it? What becomes possible when I trust that my being is my greatest contribution? Let the answers recalibrate you. You've become the person who no longer seeks legacy. You live it. You've become the frequency that others rise to match. And now there's only one thing left. It's time to activate the life you were built to live. Not conceptually, not someday. Now, in the final chapter, you'll receive the 90-day quantum life blueprint so you can stop just learning alignment and live it as your new operating system. You've come this far. You've questioned everything. You've dismantled discipline. You've realigned your identity. You've shifted from willpower to resonance. You've released effort, rewired decision-making, claimed your energy, and transmitted a new frequency to the world. Now it's time to go from integration to activation. This isn't the end. It's the real beginning. You don't need another theory. You don't need more clarity. You need a system, a framework, a path you can follow with flow, not force. So what happens now? You receive the 90-day quantum life blueprint, the practical pattern that makes this your new baseline. Not a peak, not a breakthrough, but a new normal. This blueprint isn't about setting goals or repeating affirmations. It's about installing a way of being that automatically aligns your life to your highest frequency. You don't hustle your way into it. You tune into it. Let's build it. Phase 1, 0 to 30 days, signal lock. This is your foundation. This is where you shift your identity from thinker to field-based operator. Here's your focus. 1. Morning calibration every day, 3 minutes. Before you check a single message, tune into your field. Ask, what is true for me right now? Breathe until you feel a clear yes or a clear no. This recenters your entire nervous system around truth, not urgency. 2. 1 aligned action per day. Don't build a to-do list. Ask, what's the one thing today that would be fully aligned, even if uncomfortable? Then do that. Only that. You'll find that this single act produces more impact than entire days of misaligned productivity. 3. Energetic audit weekly. Every 7 days. Ask, what drained me? What expanded me? What needs to be released now? Trim what no longer fits. Celebrate what amplified you. Refine your inputs. This phase is all about locking the signal, learning to trust and follow it no matter what. By day 30, you will no longer be outsourcing clarity. Phase 2. Days 31 to 60, field amplification. Now that you've stabilized the signal, it's time to turn up the field. The key in this phase is expansion without fragmentation. Here's what gets added. 1. Intuition-led scheduling. Before you plan your week, ask, where does my energy want to go? What is being asked through me this week? You build your calendar around resonance, not deadlines. If something doesn't match your field, move it, delegate it, or delete it. 2. Impact calibration. Ask daily, is what I'm creating coming from my highest signal, or from noise, fear, and performance? Every project now becomes a mirror. You don't push projects forward. You pull them from alignment. 3. Start saying no instantly. No more, let me think about it. When you feel a no, say it. Not because you're mean, because you're clean. By day 60, your reality will start shifting to match your new frequency. Expect relationship shifts, new invitations, and the dissolution of old timelines. Let it happen. That's the field doing its work. Phase 3, days 61 to 90, quantum normalization. This is where the magic becomes mundane, where alignment stops being a practice and starts being your identity. Here's how you finalize the installation. 1. Channel mode. Begin every creative session with this question. What wants to come through me right now? Don't plan. Don't force. Don't outline. Just receive. You'll notice your best ideas come faster. Your delivery becomes cleaner. Your message becomes magnetic. 2. 24-hour rule. When you feel a yes, act within 24 hours. This prevents momentum decay. This trains your field to move without resistance. 3. Silence as a ritual. Spend 10 minutes a day doing absolutely nothing. Let your nervous system reset. Let the oracle speak. This will prevent burnout before it starts because it ensures your signal never clogs. The final quantum shift. By day 90, your nervous system will no longer crave force. Your schedule will no longer be filled with shoulds. Your relationships will be shaped by energy, not obligation. Your creativity will feel like channeling, not grinding. Your confidence will come from coherence, not effort. And your impact will multiply without you needing to chase it. This isn't about perfection. It's about resonance. There will be days when you slip. Moments where old patterns creep in. Let them pass. Then return to signal. Every real transformation happens by field repetition, not forceful discipline. And you now have everything you need to stay in the field. Now, ask yourself, am I ready to stop performing clarity and start living it? Am I willing to stop dragging timelines and start trusting signal? Am I done with the myth of effort and finally ready for the intelligence of alignment? Because this blueprint is not about trying something new. It's about activating who you've always been. No more excuses. No more confusion. No more chasing. You are the field. You are the signal. You are the alignment. Live it.